everybody? I could have your attention? Thank you. Wow, that was fast. My name is Tom Carroll. I'm sorry for the sound system. We're going to be upgrading that soon. My name is Tom Carroll. I'm chairman of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party. And I, along with our board, many of whom are here tonight, welcome you here to this February meeting. And I'd like to get started first with a prayer. So we can all rise. Jesus, we stand here today in a battle for the very soul of our nation. Everything is upside down, it seems, as we watch our economy crash, our freedoms being taken away, the rule of law seemingly non-existent, as we watch our fellow citizens being arrested for standing up for life, for rejecting the transgender education and critical race theories that are destroying our families, and our children, we cry out now to you for them. Jesus, you told us to fear not. I will fear not. I believe in you, Jesus. We must stand firm. We must not give up. We must press through. Lord, you put us in this time, in this place, for a reason. We are called to stand firm, to not be afraid, and to fight the good fight. Lord, we are in a war between light and darkness. It is a war between good and evil. This is a fight to the finish. It is not a war that ends when we get tired or weary. Jesus, we are not doing this in our strength, but in your strength. St. Paul said that we should put on the whole armor of God. Lord, help us stand firm and heed your command and realize that it is not a request, but a command. It is a command for our benefit. We give the enemy access to our life through fear, and we give you, Father God, access to our life through faith. We are in a war. We are soldiers in that army, in the army of God. Lord, teach us how to use our weapons and to wear our armor. This is God's fight. This is God's victory. It's God's glory. It's God's kingdom. Help us put on the full armor of God and fight to win. Many of us here today with a hopeless state of mind regarding the future of our nation and the liberties and freedoms that you, Lord, gave us. Help us realize that you will stand with us as long as we stand with you. Help us know, Lord, that you have this, that you are indeed our Savior, and I am confident and unafraid, and help everybody here to be the same. My strength and courage is in the Lord, and he is my Savior. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Please stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
All right.
Thank you. Go ahead, Andrew.
So many of you know Valerie and Blair. Valerie is from Support the Troops. She called me yesterday evening, and the bad news is Blair, her husband, has been in the hospital in Philadelphia for the last 30 days, for a whole month. What's very disheartening, they cannot figure out what is wrong with him. So she did ask for prayers, and she's asking for the Lord to intervene on behalf of Blair's condition. So at the tables, we have cards. We're asking everyone to sign those cards, and or if you know them, you can put something down. We'll collect them at the end of the meeting, and we'll mail them out. If you want to send something individually, that's the address. Just take a picture of it. But again, we would appreciate you keeping Blair and Val in prayer. One other quick announcement we just got. Bill Wilson Jeffrey, who is a member, we just got notice this evening, so we added this slide in that he has passed. So you could keep him also in prayer. And for anyone else in this room that might have a loved one that is ill, sick, Ty Steiner, who usually does our check-in, he just had rotator cuff surgery, so if you keep him in prayer of the recovery.
Thank you, Andrew. Again, remain standing. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You remain standing for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you sing by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed?
early start tonight because we have a lot crammed into the agenda. And as such, I know we have still a lot of people flowing in, so I'm going to ask if possible, we could sort of try to keep the sound down as much as possible over in the corners as we check in. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. As you all know, the Lehigh Valley Tea Party has been in existence since the beginning of the Tea Party movement. And again, could I have your attention, please? And as such, we've been in the battle, and over the last couple of years, we were very confident, and come back to about 2015 when President Trump announced he was running for office. A lot of us stepped on board right away. Some of us were a little concerned about who is this guy and what's this billionaire want to do, why does he want to be president. But we quickly discovered that he made so many promises that he actually kept. What did President Trump do for us? He lowered our taxes, he reduced regulations, he gave us the best economy in world history, he secured our border, he made our allies pay their fair share of NATO and other alliances. He supported the appointment of Supreme Court and federal court judges that were conservative, and guess what happened? Roe v. Wade was overturned. The list of accomplishments that President Trump did in one term can't be matched in our entire history, especially when you consider what they did to him with the Russian collusion and the impeachments and everything else that they've done before he got elected, during his term, and now even all the way through now. And we, as a movement, a conservative Tea Party movement, we stood firmly behind President Trump, and I'm here to say tonight, thank you, President Trump, and God bless you for all that you did for us and our nation. And President Trump ran under the Republican banner, but he was never really all that political. He was a real estate guy, and he took faith in the people around him. He had a lot of trust in people he believed in. We could have some quiet place. And Republicans betrayed him time and time again. From the very beginning, when Paul Ryan wouldn't help him pass those tax cuts, all the way through his term, and we saw what was happening here in Pennsylvania as well, as Republicans betrayed us with Act 77 and everything else. Now think about this. Just a few years ago, we had a Republican governor, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate, and did they give us anything? In that same term, we got tax increases that have the highest gas tax or second highest gas tax in the nation, the second highest corporate tax in the nation, the worst roads in the nation, the most expensive toll road in the world at the Pennsylvania Turnpike, with the worst highways in the country. And that was all with Republican administration and Republican majorities in both houses. People are losing their homes every day to property tax here in Pennsylvania, and the Republicans refuse to give us tax. But in spite of that, we kept believing the lie. We kept saying we got to get Republicans elected because it's better than the Democrats. And even this time in 2022, we fought hard across the nation and luckily got a small majority in the U.S. House. And we lost the majority in the Pennsylvania House, or at least we will have lost it in a few weeks. Unbelievable that just 2 years ago, we had a strong, firm majority that increased in 2020. So again, the evidence of election fraud is very clear in Pennsylvania, as across the board, we had more state House and more state Senate seats in 2020 after that election. A record number of Republicans show up to vote in Pennsylvania, and yet we lose by 80,000 to Joe Biden. It wasn't possible, it didn't happen, they cheated, they stole that election from us. In the same time, our Republicans are the ones that gave us Act 77. They destroyed us with Act 77. We then, after that happened, in the last 2 years, begged them to fix this, to give us voter ID, to give us all sorts of other things that would at least help with the problem. Got to get rid of the machines, got to go back to same-day voting, etc. They promised us they believed in those things, and we worked hard and tried to get them elected. So we get to now, and we have 3 vacant seats in the State House, and so it's 101 to 99. Republicans to Democrats. So it's time at the beginning of January to vote for the Speaker of the House, and the Republicans could have taken control of the House for at least a short period of time. And you know what's the most important thing on the docket right now for the Republican legislature? Voter ID, right? They could have passed it. They passed it once. All they need to pass it again. Shapiro can't veto it. Once they pass it, it could be on the ballot in May. And all they needed to do was reconvene the Pennsylvania House. But what happened was, and it's a complicated story, and you're hearing more about it as we go along. You've heard a lot about it already. 16 Republicans betrayed us. And they voted for a Democrat to be the Speaker of the House, even though they had the majority. They said this guy was a moderate, he was an independent, and he was going to caucus not with the Democrats. So, fast forward, the Speaker will not reconvene or reopen the House. So these legislators, the highest paid legislators in the nation, are now not working. So I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, we want these people that are paid like $100,000 a year, plus all their benefits, to show up and work and fight and argue over legislation about our taxes and our infrastructure and our schools and everything else. We want them to at least debate these issues and situations. And we don't care if we lose some of the battles, but at least we need to be engaged. They need to be doing their work. They're not working. And why? Because one person, State House Representative Mahaffey, would not vote to bring the House back in session. So yesterday, as you know, the state coalition that evolved from here back in April of 22 has now expanded to over 100 grassroots organizations from across the state. We started here, we've expanded to represent over 250,000 Pennsylvanians in over 100 different grassroots groups, from Free PA to Audit the Vote PA to the Birch Patriots, et cetera, et cetera. And a bunch of us went out to Hershey yesterday to say, enough is enough, Representative Mojave. And we all got there. We were going to be there from 1 to 3. I got there a little before noon, and I walked up and found Teamsters that Mojave paid to be there. Teamsters, with the Teamsters truck. I walked up there and they were cursing and threatening at me, and of course I was alone at that point, so they were threatening and saying, let's get him, and he's a Tea Party guy and this kind of stuff, because I happen to have my sweatshirt on. And it just got from worse to worse, but in the end, our side was there, and I want to, one, recognize a couple people here today. Sam and Linda Brancadora, Chairman and running the Birch Patriots. They were out there yesterday. I walked up to their car after I had witnessed this, and I said, hey, Sam and Linda, they're not our people over there. They're Teamsters. And Linda said, I don't care, let me have them. So she was over there, and then Sam said, wait a minute. He said, he didn't say seamstresses, he said Teamsters. But we went out there and we made a point. And if you follow Sam Battis, he did a great article, so look that up and see what that's about. We have to keep standing and fighting for this, and I think you're going to hear a little more about this situation. But we're not necessarily winning the battle, but we're not going to give up, and we're going to continue to fight. So I'm so excited tonight with so much going on, and we're going to go to the announcement slides now. So Melissa, do you have?
Not totally yet.
Okay, so we had a little complication with that, so we're going to flip to the next slide and we'll get back to that. As you know, we have 12 board members, and every year we vote for 6 for 2-year terms, and the election for those 6 seats will be on the March meeting on March 3rd, or 2nd. However, we also have 2 additional board seats open because of Andy Ritter, unfortunately, moving to Georgia, and Captain Mel having resigned from the board. So we're going to be filling 8 spots in an election on March, and we're going to announce what the nominating committee decided who the top 8 spots were, and we'll take a motion and a second for that in a few minutes or sometime before the end of the meeting tonight. And let's move on. The membership and treasury report, total members 7,263, bank balance 59,000, some odd dollars, credit level still 10,000. And all right, so for many months, or even a couple of years now, we've all been talking about the need to create a conservative and American economy as we're coming at us with these global scores and the digitalization of our money, et cetera, et cetera. And we have been creating a list of businesses. Melissa always takes people in the back. And the whole point is we have to support our conservative friends and family members, doctors and lawyers and plumbers and everybody else. And that's what we have to do, and we're creating that directory for our members to go to those places, for them to advertise with us, for us to promote our members to go to them. And that's one of the things we're doing. And we actually have, and you'll see a slide a little bit, a coffee sponsor that's here that's talking about, because one of the things that I've been saying for years is we have to buy American products, we have to support American-made products and American-made businesses and American businesses. And Maria Miller's here as our coffee sponsor. You'll see a slide later, which she'll speak for just a couple of minutes when we get close to the break about that. So if you know any patriot-minded businesses, please go back, talk to Melissa, add them to the list. And we have, again, we keep talking about the Second Amendment Committee. What's going to happen is these 3 seats at the State House will be voted for this coming Tuesday. The Republican Party is betraying us again as we speak. They're not trying to win any of those seats. They just told us their Democrat seats were not going to win them. There's actually, all we need as Republicans is to win one of the 3. And the one in Allegheny County, and I can't remember his name, I talked to him. He's a conservative, black conservative individual in Allegheny County running against a white Democrat. Now, I hate the racial stuff, and I hate, the whole thing about gender identity and all this with politics, but it's real, and we have to realize that. And we have an opportunity with this man, and again, I apologize since he's from Western PA, I don't know his name, to have grown support to him. And some of the people in the coalition even tried to contact him. He's getting no help, no support from the Republican Party in Allegheny County or anywhere from the state, and the state Republican Party seems completely disinterested in winning those seats. So in a week, we're probably going to lose the majority, and at that point, the Speaker will probably open the House again, and they will start passing the first things on their docket will be hundreds of anti-Second Amendment bills. And they will get them, every year they introduce hundreds of Second Amendment bills. Because we've had the Republican majority for so long, they always get squashed. Now they may not. Well, you say, but we have a majority in the Senate, so we should be okay. We'll just have gridlock, and gridlock's not so bad, right? I don't trust those Republicans in the Senate, do you? No. We've been out there for so long. Pat Brown, what did he do for us?
Nothing.
All right, thank God we got rid of him, and we have a Republican majority in the Senate now, but we don't trust them not to necessarily give in. So part of the plan going forward is we're going to identify these 16 people and any Republican senator who starts getting into this, and we're going to start looking at who gives them money, who supports them, and we're going to start mounting campaigns, not waiting until next year, but this year, to start finding people to primary these people. And I also wanted to welcome tonight a couple other people that are here. Nancy Arrow is running for judge of the Court of Common Pleas in Northampton County. And as we know, these judge seats are so vitally important, both at the county level and at the state level. And we know at the state level we have Commonwealth Court seats open, Superior Court seat, and Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, we have to slowly whittle back to get that majority. Right now, it was a 5-2 Democrat majority. The one justice passed away, so now it's a 4-2 majority, and we have an open election. We could make it 4-3. We're still in the minority, but it's a little better and it's a step in the right direction. So we have to pay attention to these judge seats. I also want to welcome 2 state representatives that came today, and I want to tell you I'm very proud of what they have done recently. Malou McKenzie and Ryan McKenzie, her son. Many of you may know him. And as you know, we have engaged our legislators through the years. We have a legislative directors of our board that go out and talk to them about particular legislation that we want them to support or reject. And oftentimes, those 2 here have often voted almost always the same way we have asked them to. But now we're asking them to step up even more than just vote on our side. We're asking them to step up and say, enough is enough with this evil stuff in Harrisburg. Enough of giving us Republicans in name only a pass for all the evil things they're doing. And I can tell you that I've seen letters from them, and I want to thank you both for stepping up now and supporting the right thing in Harrisburg. All right, how many people are here for the first time? Thank you for coming. And we welcome you, and we encourage you to come back. Also encourage you to, we have membership forms on the table to sign up. It's only $25, or you can go onto our website, LVTP.org, and become a member that way. It's always important. At the end of the night, we withdraw the 50-50 raffle. Andrew. All right, and as always, in the back, I think Melissa's handling this today, we always have a gun raffle. And when we sell 100 tickets, we always draw it. So as soon as we sell that next 100 tickets, we'll draw that.
Only 9 left.
Only 9 left, so at the break, go buy those 9 tickets, and then we can draw that tonight. Go ahead. And if you're short of money, we have the LVTP chips here, so you can use your credit card to buy the chips, and then you can use that to buy merchandise or make donations. And please do that. And then, of course, as always, normally the merchandise is up here, but we have it over here, down to back to the back with Emily. So, buyer can always buy some of our merchandise. And what else do we have here? All right. Oh yes, thank you. All right, Kitty, who is our secretary, who checks people in at the back door here, reminded me last month we had somebody leave a sweater here, or 2 months ago. And we announced it, so she said, we were going to give it to Goodwill if nobody claimed it, but she said, wait a minute, this is a nice sweater, you better ask again. So if anybody thinks that they might have left that sweater 2 months ago, go see Kitty. Thank you, Kitty.
There's a $100 bill in there.
It's my sweater.
It's past due. It's past due. You have to pay that bill.
All right, and then we have the slide about the Constitution classes, and that's very important. We still have to keep educating. One of the things as conservatives is that politically I've observed is in the cycles sometimes we win, if I could have your attention, sometimes we win some election cycles and we get excited that we won and we go on our way and we go back to work. Because as conservatives and Republicans, we tend to work, we tend to pay our taxes, and we tend to think that, hey, we won a battle and we fought a long battle and we spent a lot of time knocking on doors. Historically, in 2022, in the Lehigh Valley, we never knocked on more doors or made more phone calls to support our candidates for Congress and State House and State Senate across the valley. And it didn't get us very much, so we have to rethink on how we do this. But we have to keep working and we never give up in that sense. The Democrats never give up. Andrew also sells cannolis in the back, Emily's back there, and that supports the Boy Scouts. And then obviously we've always been working with U.S. Law Shield, and we have a person in the back there with the table and some literature back there with regard to U.S. Law Shield. All right, and then we sent out a membership raffle, and Andrew wants to update you with that.
So we are in the black. Thank you to all of you who purchased. Give yourselves a round of applause. The next month we will do the drawing, so we're asking you to please purchase some tickets tonight and see if you can get some of your family, friends, or neighbors to purchase them. There are the raffles here, so not only do we have cash prizes, but we have opportunities to go to Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays, Relic Hunter, some eateries, and also a hat signed by President Donald Trump. Also, we want to make you aware, we do have these coffee cups. I'm going to ask you a personal question. How many of you want to help me out personally? I hope so. We show up here between 2 and 2:30. So I brought someone last month and they thought everything just gets set up. But we're here at 2 o'clock setting up all this stuff. So we have got an agreement made with the Fearless Fire Company that screen up there is going to go away. We're going to put a drop-down screen, and we're also going to be able to put our projector up in the ceiling. But of course, that costs money. So I'm going to give you something in return. I still have some of these coffee cups. They're $5 a piece. I have 1 case left. I'm asking you to buy a coffee mug tonight. And in return for that, anyone that buys one, I'll give you a kiss. A Hershey kiss. There you go. All right? So once you buy that, come up here and I'll give you a Hershey kiss.
just filmed this event here, and he's birthday's coming up, so we're going to announce his birthday on Gunther Franklin.
Yes, we're going to announce his birthday on Gunther's birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Franklin. Happy birthday to you.
He's such a millennial, he's on his phone looking there now. Okay. I think it was about 10 years ago, Mary, that I first met you and your husband. It was down in King of Prussia, and you were beginning the early stages of telling your story. Maybe it was 2012 or 2013, but certainly 2013, we had met, and you were telling that such a compelling story about your son and everything that happened to him and what you were doing to help the families. And you and Charlie have become such good friends of mine personally, and I'm so proud of everything that you guys have done. And I want you guys to come up today because you're going to introduce our speaker. So, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, the LVTP party. Love seeing people patients. It's hard to find these days in our country. My name is Charles Strange. I'm co-star father of Michael Strange, killed in action August 6, 2011, along with 29 other brave Americans. And part of the warrior dog, this is my beautiful wife, Mary Ann Strange. August 6, 2011, it was the biggest loss of life in the Iraq and Afghan war. It was the biggest loss of life in the history of America. We lost 22 men from Dev Group, Navy Special Warfare, and we lost a piece of our heart that day, losing Michael, and he was part of SEAL Team 6. He was Dev Group, he was on the Gold Squad, part of the team to take out Osama bin Laden, and not going to endure, 5 stages of grief comes charging in, the Grim Reaper, the anger, the disbelief, the bargaining. And I was lost. And my wife figured out what we did in the shower and go through everything. And I went to a couple therapists, and they were nice people, they were good people, but none of them buried a child. And I called another Gold Star father from Pennsylvania, a gentleman by the name of Grant Smith. He lost his son Tristan Smith in Iraq, and I asked him if I could meet him for a coffee. And I met this guy, and he was just like me. He was crying. He was angry, he was sad, and I came home to Mayor. I said, Mayor, he's just like me. But I felt better talking to him, and something happened there. And we started the Michael Strange Foundation, where we bring in Gold Star families. Gold Star means you lost someone killed in action at the time of war. Nobody wants a Gold Star. And we had our first Beef and Beer fundraiser for the Michael Strange Foundation at St. Dominic's in Philadelphia, at Frankfurt Academy. Tom Campione, Tom Carroll, our good friends over there, Tom and Maureen Goody, they said, we're coming to the Beef and Beer in Philadelphia. Is it safe? I said, no, it ain't safe. It's Philadelphia. So I don't know how many guns they bought, but just saying. But since 2012, they always supported us and the Gold Star families, and I just want to say, we're thankful so much. The healing that goes on in the Michael Strange Foundation, you can YouTube Michael Strange and hear the testimonies of the Gold Star parents. We've done 12 weekends. Over 350 Gold Star parents been through, and through our foundation, my wife here calls them up. She just tells them, pack a bag, bring a picture of your son or daughter that was killed in action, and we pay for the plane tickets, the hotel, have veterans and different people, patriots pick them up at the airport. April 26th to the 30th, we have them coming to Ben Salem Wednesday night, go to a Phillies game Thursday, and then we start this process that we started and with some healing. And one thing that's really powerful that we learned is when we're in that conference room at the hotel, you don't have to explain yourself. Everybody in the room understands. Of course, we have my friend over there, Jimmy. Raise your hand, Jimmy. He cracks open the Bible a little bit for us and talks about John 15:13, no greater love than to lay your life down for another. And Bobby Hilker right here, a high school buddy, Marine. He heard about my son dying. Him and his wife going every weekend with us doing videos. And his wife makes a great gift bag for when the parents check into the hotel. And that loss, you know, through all that, meeting all these Gold Star parents, we're doing 2 weekends this year, and through the support of great patrons like yourself. And last year I run into a guy on LinkedIn, and I see him, and he reaches out to me, and he started a swim across the Hudson River in August to honor the 30 men and park the Warrior Dog. He said, would you like to come? We'd like to have you come up and bring another Gold Star fathers from August 6, 2011 when they all died. And the helicopter's name was Extortion 17. And I said, yeah. I said, I'll come up. And I go up there, and there's 250 men there, a lot of Navy SEALs, and they had us on Newsmax and Fox and Friends, but to see the camaraderie, the love, and since last August, I'll tell you what, they start off at New Jersey at the Memorial Park where you used to be able to see the Twin Towers. They do 100 push-ups, 22 pull-ups. They jump into the Hudson River, swim to the Statue of Liberty where there's a barge. They climb up the ladder, do 100 push-ups, 22 pull-ups, jump back in the water, swim to Ellis Island. There's another barge. They climb up the ladders, do another 100 push-ups, another 22 pull-ups, jump back in the water and swim to where the Twin Towers were. And I'll tell you what, the camaraderie, the love, and to meet these men. And United States Navy SEAL William Brown. I'd like to introduce William Brown. This guy, I'll tell you what, he don't just walk the talk, he walks the walk. He's been in our corner. He's been speaking out and helping us so much. With that, thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm truly blessed to be here. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm smart enough to know if I got a moment, I'm going to ask God for a little help. So bear with me. Dear God, in the name of Jesus, I come before you with some good men and women here. Please let me be a tool for good. Please help me be articulate and true. Amen. So there's a lot of things going on in our country today. There's a lot of things that have gone on in our country today. I really believe in the ideas and values that were expressed in our Constitution: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And one of the things when I think about today, dates are very important to me, and honoring beautiful men like Michael, who stood up for our country, went into harm's way when he knew our country was in a state of war, to protect us and to protect our way of life. And he was a beautiful man, and I have a lot of friends that were beautiful men too. And we're all here trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward. What's the best way to move forward? And I think we could learn a lot from history, right? But we have to be honest. We talk about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. today's Black History Month. And that was a horrendous stain on the values of our Constitution. And it's, we think about some of the lessons, think about what it took to overcome that. Hundreds of thousands of good men had to stand up and put their life on the line, and many, many died. And you think about years of basically different types of levels of prosecution, and some of the ways that they were successful in having the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that we all have. And one of the reasons why I want to bring that to your attention, because I think it's at the point now where we have to see what worked and what didn't work. And one of the things I learned from President Trump is we absolutely need to fight back. Right? But one of the things I also learned from President Trump is we got to do our best not to put our foot in our mouth. So you got to think about like what's kind of happening here. You know that you have to speak up. You know you have to, right? If we don't speak up now, look what's happening when we talk about freedom of speech. They shut down the president on social media. They're trying to shut down Newsmax, right, which is a big conservative outlet. Think of all of us, including myself, who've been shut down on social media, right? So all of our platforms where we can reach out and express our points of view, guess what, are getting shut down. And so we have to continue to let our voices be heard. But because Donald Trump was right, you have to fight back. But sometimes he made himself an easy target. And that's one of the things we have to do, right? We have to articulate ourselves. And in a way, I think Martin Luther King did it right. Because we have to hold the moral high ground. And you can learn from Greece, right? Greece, when they were together, under Alexander the Great, they took over large parts of Asia all the way into India. But guess what happened? When they weren't together, guess what happened? They got conquered by Rome. And then guess what happened later? When they came back together, they had a successful revolution against the Ottoman Empire. Right? So those are different types of examples that we need to use. One is we got to hold the moral high ground, like Martin Luther King. Two is we got to fight back like Trump. And three is we got to come together. We have to work together. Because a lot of the way I look at it, a lot of the far left, one of the reasons I believe that they try to divide us into different caste systems, right? And I think it's the old English type of strategy, divide and conquer. And I think that's very important for us to come together, work together, and you got to realize, I think about, I like history, and I was a SEAL, so I like to study different various military battles. And one of my favorites was the Battle of Thermopylae, where the Spartans stood together and they fought successfully. They died, but their courage influenced a greater victory down the road. But one of the things that happened later is when the Romans came to take over Greece, the Spartans fought the same way. They tried to take their key battle to Thermopylae again, and guess what happened? The Romans they flanked them on both sides and wiped them out because they didn't learn. And that's one of the things we have to do now, is we have to learn. One of the things that they try to do is you see January 6th. You see the guy, the revolution resulted in one guy stealing a podium. Right? And what happened is they stereotyped a lot of good people who had valid concerns about the election as being radical. And here's the truth, guys. When we're debating, don't ever think you're going to change the mind of a far left zealot. You're not going to. That's not your real target. Your target's the audience that's watching. And so and one of the other things they'll do is they'll put some hike some guy there they know has problems, and if you let that guy be your voice, he'll ruin it for all of us. So if you hear some guy saying some wild stuff, you got to put him in check and let him know right away, that's not what we're about. We're good men and women who have valid concerns. I think a lot of Americans, reasonable people, can have concerns about the electoral process now. I mean, I think there needs, now that we have control of the House, I think the House needs to take serious steps in investigations to figure out how the American people can have more belief in the integrity of our electoral process. Because right now, I think a lot of us have reasonable, serious concerns.
Amen. Amen.
So we know freedom of speech is in trouble, right? And so one of the things, you had different people that challenged some of these decisions. And it challenged some of big tech and various federal court systems. And a lot of them, they lost. And one of the reasons why they lost is because they failed to show joint activity, right? Because what happens, right, is freedom of speech is protected under the government. It's not protected constitutionally by a private enterprise unless they can show joint activity between the government and the private enterprise. And I think that's one of the things that Elon Musk showed us all. He threw the carpet open, moved the curtain, and everybody saw a big spotlight. Said, hey, look, guess what? Absolutely, there was joint activity between big tech companies, right, and the government, shutting us down, shutting freedom of speech down, not only shutting freedom of speech down, but hindering stories that would likely have a great effect on electoral results. Now, that's what happened. Now, it's kind of funny, I was an enlisted guy in the SEAL teams, right? But we held each other accountable. And one of the things you don't see happening here is these type of atrocities on our electoral process, on our freedom of speech. There's no accountability. And one of the other things that's extremely concerning, and you really need to be concerned about this, because I am, judicial independence. Judicial independence is a big concern here. So you look at one of the things that happened with Kavanaugh during his confirmation hearings, the way they treated him. Now, they just didn't do that to harass and intimidate Kavanaugh. They did that to send a signal to all these great conservative jurist minds out there who made it through these liberal law schools, did extremely well, made it through these liberal law firms, did extremely well, had these great legal careers, and they wanted to deter them from having the opportunity, to seeking the opportunity to sit on some of our nation's highest courts. Now that's a real problem, because we all know how important it is to have judicial independence. Now this isn't an isolated incident. Look at Senator Schumer, right? How powerful he is. He goes out and says, when he doesn't like a decision that Justice Kavanaugh or courts he goes, they won't know what hit him. Here you have a leading senator referring to judges that they won't know what hit them. Now, that's not alone. Think about the decision that came out with Dobbs and Jackson and Women's Health Organization that it overturned part of the rulings in Roe v. Wade. They had the protesters outside the judge's houses. If that's not intimidation, I don't know what is. Not only that, they don't care about judicial process. They leak the drafted opinion. They leak it. Why? To try to upstate their base. Right? They leak the drafted opinion. And why? To try to change the ruling, to try to intimidate the judges because they know it's cause and effect. They know what's going to happen and what did happen. All of a sudden you have a judge, an assassination attempt on a U.S. Supreme Court justice. Now that's what happened. That was a cause and effect from that leak. And we want to talk about accountability. They haven't found, with all the technology available today, they haven't found who leaked that opinion. I'm scared. I'm scared because when you put the pressure on the judges who decide so many issues in our life, and you put the weight of political sanction, intimidation on our judicial system, there is a problem. There's a problem. Something that, now that we have the House, they need to investigate that. They need to investigate what's happened with judicial independence. Now, here's another incident. This came out in the New Jersey Law Journal today. It came out January 23rd, Monday. Here's Governor Murphy. Here he is belittling and intimidating a U.S. District Judge, Renee Marie Baum, and he's calling her a right-wing judge because he's upset with her ruling on a challenge by a gun law in the state of New Jersey. Now here you have Senator Schumer, who's telling Supreme Court justices they won't know what hit them. Here you have a New Jersey judge labeling a brilliant jurist right-wing judge. Basically, he's took the rug out of her feet. No, doesn't give her any respect, any dignity for the years and years that she sacrificed, studied, and excelled in law. And yet he labels her a political hack. That's what he did to intimidate her, and not just intimidate her, but to intimidate other judges. Now this is a problem. This is a problem because we're talking about freedom of speech. Now we're talking about our whole judicial system. Now we know what happened with our federal law enforcement. It's become abundantly clear that leadership in the federal branches of our law enforcement are absolutely political hacks. 100%. From the day that Trump came down that escalator until the present, they have not stopped investigation after investigation after investigation. Meanwhile, we got a crackhead wheeling and dealing with everybody on the planet, has access to all types of classified documents, and nobody's invading his house in the middle of the night.
What we need is revival. That's what we need. Put God ahead of everything. Because when your nation falls, when your nation does not have the Lord up front, and that's where we're at.
Well, you know, one of the beautiful things about Jesus is the example he set and how he behaved. And remember the golden rule, right? The golden rule is to treat others how you want to be treated. That's how we have to hold ourselves, right? That's how we have to hold ourselves. We have to have the courage to speak up about these things. We have to show our evidence, right? We have to let people see that we're reasonable, we care. We got to follow the example that Jesus Christ set, right? Treat others how you want to be treated, but guess what? Remember what he did? Remember what happened in the temple? Remember in the temple when they're there and they're turning it into a flea market? Let me tell you, Jesus didn't sit on his hands. He got upset. He showed righteous anger. He uplifted some tables, right? That's what happened. And guess what? Now is the time where good people have to speak up. Show some righteous anger. Right? Because guess what? One of the things I think about is we've seen throughout history, you look what happened in our own country with slavery. It was horrible and it was wrong. And every good man should have stood up against it. Right? And guess what? So we saw even in our own country that there's times when our government's not right. Right? There's times when it's not right. There's times when good men and women need to speak up. Right? Because look, it's at the point now where guess what? I'm a good man. I want you to live your life. I don't care what you call yourself. I don't care who you sleep with as long as it's consenting adults. But what do I care about? Don't try to sexualize my 8-year-old daughter in school. And you know something's a problem when you got concerned parents that have the courage to speak up, and you have the head of the FBI trying to label them domestic terrorists. Look, you saw how they try to intimidate our judges, right? Now they're trying to intimidate our parents, right? And so, look, the truth is, this is a long fight. We're not going to win overnight, but we need to change the way we operate. We need to change we can't make it easy for them to diminish our ideas and beliefs. We got to hold them all high ground, and we got to come with evidence and facts. Right? And we got to change the way we've been doing things. Trump showed us how to fight, but he also showed us how not to fight. Look, I want to close with a couple things. One is, one of the things about, there's different guys who kind of came up, different political philosophers that came up with different ideas. And there's a guy named Tom Hobbes. And Tom Hobbes came up with the idea, look, nature is pretty rough. And it's kill or be killed sometimes. And it's better to come together under a government and you give the government I guess the right way is to give. You give the government the government provides protection, and in return, you kind of listen to the government in some ways, right? Consent, right? So you consent. And then another guy came along, John Locke. And John Locke said, you know what, it's called the social contract. And John Locke said, okay, look, there's naturally given rights. And the naturally given rights that we have, basically, is that the naturally given rights of life, liberty, and property we have. And we come to form a government under the authority of the government in order to protect those naturally given rights. And he goes along in return, and he was very influential for a lot of our founding fathers, that if the government is failing or suppressing on your rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then guess what? You shouldn't consent to that government's authority anymore. Now, I look at it like this. There's a couple things to me that are extremely important. If you don't have the right to free speech, what right do you really have? Think about it. And you want to talk about cancel culture. If you say the wrong thing, cancel culture isn't just canceling you. They're trying to destroy your ability to make a living, destroy your ability to enjoy your life. It's extreme pressure for conformity, right? And then I believe in the right to self-protection. If you don't have the right... If you don't have the right to protect yourself, what right do you really have? Now we can look at this. Look, We talked about slavery, how horrible that was. Now guess what? If you have the right to protect yourself, it's hard to make you a slave. We looked at what happened. Look at what happened in the Holocaust. You know, my grandfather, he fought World War II against that. And another situation where good men had to stand up against evil, right? Well, guess what? If you have the right to protect yourself, it's hard to have a genocide if you have the right to protect yourself. Now we can look at one of the things that happened in the previous, in COVID, right? You had severe restrictions on even, you couldn't go outside without a mask. You couldn't go, some businesses were straight shut down. There were severe restrictions on our right to liberty. And even the right to commerce, the right to commute. Those are huge restrictions, right? Huge restrictions. And if you spoke up against it, what happened? You got canceled, you got fired. Like that happened in our lifetime. So, one of the things I think we need to do is we got to go about it differently. We got to talk about, we got to have facts that support our reasons. We got to hold the moral high ground, and we got to stick together. Thank you.
I can tell you that we are all very blessed to have a God that loves us and wants us to stand up to do the right thing. And this man here served our country, and he continues to fight for us. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for your message. Short and strange, never strange, phenomenal what you're doing with the Gold Star parents. And we will always continue to support you. We're going to take a break in a little bit. We've got a couple other quick committee reports to get through here, and then we're going to take our break, and then we're going to hear from Hogan and Gibney, and I'm excited for that. But when we do take our break, I want you to make sure that you go up to the table here where they're selling the Charlie Strange and the Michael Strange Foundation merchandise, etc. And then right before the break, you're going to see Maria Lewis over here. Thank you for coming tonight. You're going to hear from her very briefly, just to talk about why she's the coffee sponsor. And from that, I'm going to call up the person who... Gallagher. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Melissa. Happy birthday to you. Captain Mel.
I was half an hour to make sure that we said happy birthday to Melissa. Melissa's been phenomenal. She is so organized, and she keeps so much together for me. And I've been so appreciative of her stepping up so many years, several years ago to be our vice chair. And I'm just happy birthday, Melissa, and thank you for everything you've done. Also, I wanted to mention that there's a couple other people that I forgot to say they were here, and thank them for coming tonight. One is standing over there in the corner, Jimmy Zumba. Just want to welcome you again, Jimmy. You all know all the work that you did in the last election cycle. For the Republican Party, for Republican candidates. And is that office still open in Allentown? Okay. So, and then also two other people that are very special to me. I've known them for a long time. Made their way here to Allentown this evening. Sam and Linda Brancadora, very good friends of mine. Sam and Linda, amazing people, and they run the Berks Patriot organization, which is on the third Thursday of each month in Hamburg at the Field House. I strongly encourage anybody who might be able to get over there to go to their meetings. Melissa often goes, I often go. They have a phenomenal group. They do great things in Berks County, and they were lucky enough, I think, in some ways, to have a pretty good relationship with the Republican Party leadership there. But I've seen their meetings, and I've watched what they've done, and they've had great influence on candidates for office, and they've done success with school boards and turning over policies that were really harmful for our children. So welcome Sam and Linda, and congratulations for all the work you do for the cause.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to introduce you to Paul Saunders, who's going to introduce our speaker here tonight. Paul has been also a very, very long-time member. I think you were on the board at one time, correct? And he's been chairing our individual rights committee for many years, so here we go. Thank you, Tom.
Good evening. As Tom said, I'm Secretary of the Energy, Environment, and Individual Rights Action Committee. And tonight we're bringing back, for his third or fourth appearance, Dr. Andrew Bernstein to talk about his newest book, The Documents That Deliberate Damage or Sabotage done to your children and grandchildren by the government school system. The book he's written is titled Why Johnny Still Can't Read or Write or Understand Math, and what we can do about it. Hopefully tonight will tell us a lot about what we can do about it. Dr. Bernstein grew up in Brooklyn with a love for literature and ideas. He went on to earn a PhD in philosophy, then on to teaching philosophy, where he earned 2 Teacher of the Year awards with different colleges. He has published 2 novels, a collection of short stories, numbers of nonfiction books on capitalism, heroism, and literature, and a great many articles on philosophy and literature. After his talk tonight and his question period, he's going to be doing a book sale and book signing at the individual rights table in the back of the room. We have several other of his books as well as his newest one. So please join me in welcoming back Dr. Andrew Bernstein.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, people hear me talk, they think I'm from Louisiana, but they're wrong. I'm not. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, and the pulpit. That's a joke, by the way. So it's okay. Now, I think this is at least the third time I've spoken at this organization over the last 8 or 10 years. This is the book that Paul was talking about, Why Johnny. You know, many of you probably know that in 1955, Rudolph Flesch published a very famous book, Why Johnny Can't Read. Well, that's why my book is titled, Why Johnny Still Can't Read, or Write or Understand Math, and what we can do about it. And I think, you know, we've been discussing a lot about politics and the Republicans. I certainly think the Republicans are a lot less bad than the Democrats, is damning them to faint praise. But let's put it this way, to me, I think the conservatives are mixed, the leftists are evil. So the conservatives become the only game in town. We need to win political victories, but I would say this, no matter how many political victories we win, and we need to defend liberty in America, if we don't win in the school system, we lose. If we don't win in the field of education, we lose. Because the leftists are indoctrinating hundreds of thousands of kids every single year to be brainwashed, semi-illiterate, little leftists. And what are we going to do about it? Well, first of all, let me point out here, the school system today is about indoctrination. It's not about education. It hasn't been about education in a long time. I'll give you a little brief background. The first half of the book here is on how we got into this mess. Who did it? When did they do it? Why did they do it? And I name names. So we're talking about John Dewey and William Murray Kilpatrick and people like that who deliberately sabotaged the American education system. They did it on purpose. And you know, when you think about it, you couldn't mess up the education system this bad by accident. It has to be on purpose. And it is. They don't want, they've warned against fines for 100 years, more than 100 years, going back to World War I, the method of teaching your youth. They did away with history more than 100 years ago, replaced it with a weird hybrid called social studies, which can mean anything to anybody. They dumbed down the literature reading lists severely. They diminished the number of courses high school kids need in math and science to get a high school diploma. It's really sad, guys, I teach college, and these students are good kids. These are good American kids. You know, I love a lot of them. But they don't know about their thing. No, it's heartbreaking. They struggle with the mechanics of reading. Their reading comprehension is not good. A number of times, these are college students. They can't write a coherent paragraph, never mind a college level lesson, and they don't know the first thing about American history. I'll give you an example. Just a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic shut us down, I was teaching a logic course. Logic is that, a high-level course. So I'd like to bring in examples to tie it to reality. So I was going to discuss something, I don't remember the context anymore. I was going to discuss something about James Madison. I think that's a pretty safe example. But it turned out it wasn't so safe. And 20 kids in the class, all born, reared, and educated, schooled in America. 10 out of 20 never heard of James Madison.
Oh my
They
God.
never heard of him. The other 10 at least knew that he'd been the president of the United States. But not 1 out of 20 knew that he was the lead author of the U.S. Constitution and virtually the sole author of the Bill of Rights. Not 1 out of 20 American kids, and that is typical today. They believe, I won't say no, but they believe a lot about man-made global warming, and they believe a lot of stuff about critical race theory, and they believe a lot of stuff that they know about there being dozens of genders and you can choose whatever one you want. The American school system is about indoctrination. It's not about education. So, like I said, the first half of the book tells us the details on how the left managed to eviscerate the American school system. But the second half of the book is what we could do about it. That's what I want to talk about tonight, the good news. We got to know the bad news, how it is happening. It's like akin to a disease. If we know the cause of the disease, if we know the germs, then we're better equipped to cure it. But I want to focus on the cure. E.D. Hirsch, professor of humanities at the University of Virginia about 25 years ago, published a book, The Schools We Need and Why We Don't Have Them. And he pointed out, the school system, in his words, is an impregnable fortress. It cannot be reformed, it cannot be changed, it cannot be improved. You go back, if you guys remember H.L. Mencken, the writer and literary critic going back maybe 100 years ago, or 80 or 90 years ago. Mencken, 80 years ago, put it very simply when he was talking about how to fix education in this country. He said the only thing it would take to fix education in this country is to burn down the teachers' colleges and hang all the professors. Yeah. The teachers' colleges, the schools of education are cesspools. Unfortunately, we are rational, honest human beings. We're not going to perpetrate murder or arson. But I know, Mencken obviously didn't mean that literally. But I want to talk about the cure. It's really good to see. One good thing came out of the pandemic is that parents recognize more today than just a few years ago how atrocious the school system is. And they're angry about it, as they should be. That's good. They're wasting their time rounding at the school boards. I understand why they do it. The schools will not be changed. They can't be changed. Because look at this way. The school system wants the powers that be, the teachers' colleges, the state departments of education, the federal departments of education, the school boards, the powers that be, the interlocking directorate of the school system, as often best called, they are not abashed that the kids can't read. They're not abashed that the kids don't know any medical history. This is what they want. They want semi-illiterate kids who are indoctrinated with leftist propaganda, who will obey the wise rulers of the state. That's what they want. They're not going to change. You remember A Nation at Risk? 1983, 20 years ago, when Reagan was president, the Secretary of Education, the mission, published A Nation at Risk, 1983, on the American school system. Remember the language? I'm not making this up. This is from A Nation at Risk. You can look it up. That the conclusion was that an unfriendly foreign power had imposed on us this kind of mediocre school system, we would consider it an act of war. I mean, the language could not be stronger. From a cabinet level position, studying the school system, 40 freaking years ago, and it's only worse today. E.P. Hirsch is right. The school system is an impregnable fortress. It cannot be reformed, it cannot be improved, it cannot be changed, it cannot be altered. But it can be circumvented. And that's the way, one, improve education in this country dramatically, and two, end the political move towards communism. So what do we need to do? First of all, the parents need to pull the kids out of the goddamn schools. We need to stop the monster of victims. Now, you pull the kids out of the schools, that's a lot of responsibility for the parents. I understand. They're working, they come home from work, they're tired, they're not teachers, and so on. But I want to point out the good news today is there's a lot of options for parents who really care about their kids' education and want to homeschool. First of all, homeschooling. There's so many resources online, and homeschooling is growing exponentially. It's a huge movement in the country. And one of the most encouraging signs is the demographic that's leading the way in homeschooling in the United States is Black Americans. Black American parents have realized their kids are not getting an education. And you see, this is really good news. You see a lot of Black American parents pulling their kids out of the government school system and homeschooling. It's not that hard. I've had parents say, I'm not a teacher. How am I going to teach my kids? And my first response is, how good a teacher you have to be to do a better job than the government schools? The answer to that is unfair. You won't indoctrinate them with man-made global warming, with critical race theory, with the superiority of communism to capitalism. The single most important cognitive skill is to read well. That's by far the single most important intellectual skill, because if your child can read well, it opens up to him over the whole world of books, the whole world of knowledge. And reading is easy. It's not this tortuous process the school system has turned it into. Here's what I do with my daughter, who's now going to be 20 in a few weeks. She's a junior in college. As soon as I, 1 or 2, we go out and play, we go to the park and everything. And as part of playing, we go to the library, or Borders was still in existence then, or Barnes and Noble, and I have to pick out a book. It was important that she picked it out because you want the kid to know books are fun. And anybody knows my daughter knows. She's always been this very careful, sharp, she takes an hour, but she finally picks something out, And it was always these goofy stories about dogs that could fly, or kids who thought the full moon was a bowl of milk. But that's not the point. The point was that she, at 2 years old, she found it interesting. And she sit down on the floor, and she's pat the floor, and she says, sit down, Dad, and read it. And so I read them. And if you do that, it's not hard to do that with your kid. And what that shows the child is that books are fun. Books are cool. Books have good stuff in them. And then the child's motivated to read herself or himself, as the case may be. Not depend on mommy or daddy or the teacher. And by the time the kid's 4 years old, you don't have to wait until 6 years old in first grade. By the time the child's 4 years old, using systematic phonics, you can teach a motivated child to read in a matter of weeks. Systematic phonics. You teach the children, the letters of the alphabet, the combination of letters, the sounds that those letters make. And by the time the child's 4 years old, he or she already knows thousands of words verbally in the mother tongue. And now the child can learn to relate, to connect the literary symbols on the page with the verbal symbols, the sounds of the word that the kid already knows. Reading is easy. It's as easy for a healthy child as learning to ride a bike. And they've turned it into this torturous process, and it's evil. What they've done is evil. They've crippled millions and millions and millions of people's ability to read, and they did it deliberately. So I say to parents, at the very least, teach the kid to read. It's easy, and open up a whole world of knowledge to the child. So that, everybody can homeschool their child in that way. There's homeschool co-ops. Now, I understand in the leftist states they make it hard. Homeschool co-ops and parents pool their resources. And so one parent, like my buddy Paul Sloan's engineer, if he could teach math to the kids or science lessons to the kids. If I was a homeschool co-op and I'm a literary, I could teach English, and literature to the kids, and so on. The parents pool their resources and they teach the subjects to the kids that they're expert in. Now, in the leftist states, they make this difficult because they won't let one parent teach the children of other parents. But in the more redneck places, and I say that with great affection, in the more redneck places, it's much more rational. It's much easier to have a homeschool co-op where parents can share the work and teach the kids in their field of expertise. But even in the leftist places, where they can't stop them from doing it, is forming what they call today microschools. Are you familiar with microschools? This is the future of American education, because a lot of teachers, certified teachers, are disgruntled with the school system. If you remember the great Martha Collins, she was a standout example. Let's go back to the 1970s. That's almost 50 years ago. But she was a superb teacher. She opted out of the school system with a few parents and a few kids and started a private school with just a few students and built up into Westside Prep, which became an enormously successful school. There's a lot of this going on. It's so common today. The better teachers, they actually want to use smartness to teach reading. They know the kids need American history. They know the kids need math and science. They have this funny idea they actually want to educate the children. But they're stifled by a suppressive system, by the school boards and the powers that be in the schools. They're opting out. It's so complicated with a few parents, and they're starting so-called microschools, which are really just small community schools, 3 or 4 kids, maybe 5, 6, 10 kids, in somebody's basement. And this is so, I've seen a number of examples of this on Facebook, but this is so common a phenomenon. Teachers opting out of the school, certified teachers opting out of the school system with a few parents and the students to start a small community school. This is so common that Forbes magazine, which is a business magazine, ran an essay on this a year or so ago. And the rise of the micro schools is sometimes referred to as the return of the one-room schoolhouse, where you have a school mom, sometimes a man, but generally a woman, teaching kids of different ages in a small school. The environment is safe. That's another problem with developing schools. The drugs, the bullying, the crime, in the thugs in urban areas. You don't get that in homeschooling. You don't get it in a homeschool co-op. You don't get it in a micro school. It's safe. The teacher actually wants to teach, academic subjects. The rise of the micro schools is a very, very, very positive development in American education. And you go to microschoolrevolution.com. You'll get a lot of information. If anybody wants to start a micro school. I have a buddy, I mentioned his name, Mike Gustafson in Massachusetts. He told me, he was a college kid. He was majoring in education. I'm going to teach for a few years. As a certified teacher, I'm going to opt out of the system and start my own school. Now this is Massachusetts. It doesn't get any bluer, right? Than Massachusetts is, and they can't stop them. The communists will try and stop parents from opening a homeschool co-op, like I said, they can't stop a certified teacher from starting a school with a few families. And today in school, after 5 or 6 years, Atlas Academy has like 60 kids in it, and it's thriving. So this is the rise of the micro schools is very, very positive development. I discuss it, in the second half of the book. But also, there's one other thing that parents don't realize. I think it's an option they have, it's a resource, and that is tutors. Tutors. Because think about this. One of the problems with the school system, one of them many, is that very often the teachers don't know very much. It's because they don't know much content. That's because to get teaching degrees, they have to take a lot of education courses, which focuses on how to teach, not what to teach. So, for example, at the University of Connecticut, which is, by the way, is more than a women's basketball team, the University of Connecticut, and this is typical from around the country, but it was for a garden variety math major at the University of Connecticut. I think they needed something like, I don't remember the exact number, something like 39 hours in mathematics and 13 hours, 12 hours in cognate science disciplines, physics, chemistry. But they needed something like, it was more than 50 hours to get a math degree at the University of Connecticut. But for somebody who's going to teach math, to be a certified math teacher, they needed a fraction of that number of courses in math and science. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was like maybe 2/3 of what a math major needs. So the teachers are getting very little content because they're taking on those education courses, which focus on math. But simply, the teachers don't know very much. The English teachers don't know much literature because they're taking education courses. The math teachers don't know much math because they're taking education courses, and so on. You hire a tutor. Think about this. Let's say you're a parent in Michigan, your family in Michigan, and you want somebody to teach your kids chemistry. You can online, you can go to varsitytutors.com, outschool.com, there's all these online resources. You find graduate students around the country. Let's say somebody could be at the University of Oregon, getting a PhD in chemistry. What that means is, first of all, the student already has a bachelor's degree in chemistry and knows vastly more chemistry than any high school science teachers do. And second of all, they're graduate students. So they're taking graduate courses in chemistry. They know vastly more than the high school teachers do. Furthermore, they're graduate students, which means they're not working full-time, which means they're starving, and you can hire their sheep. You can get them for like $40 an hour. They're experts in their field because they can study their field, they haven't taken education courses. And you can do it with Zoom. Another good thing came out of the pandemic. And you can have your kids taught by experts in the field using tutors. I'm a tutor, teach literature, philosophy, and family in Minnesota. So anyhow, we're wrapping this up. We got to go to Q&A, but there's a lot of options for parents who pull their kids out of the school system to educate them in a way that's vastly superior to the way the government schools do. And I want to reiterate, just to repeat the last point, at the very least, you can teach the child how to read well, read effectively, and open up the whole world of books to the kids. Thank you. So how many minutes do we have for Q&A?
Yep. Mr. Chairman?
First of all, just give me the microphone here and
We're running out of time. Is there anybody that has questions? We'll pass the mic. So, okay, we'll have questions for about maybe 4 questions. Start maybe. Okay. So we'll start.
Maybe selling signing books in the back afterwards.
Hi, thank you, it's comfortable. During the COVID shutdowns, I was watching my grandchildren. One was in the first grade, and so I was tasked on my days to try to help him with his work. Well, it was difficult. You have the equipment failures, blah, 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 blah. But as we were progressing through some of this, he was showing me papers he was supposed to go over, and there were sight words. Now, when I was in school, I don't remember sight words. They were just words to memorize, to learn through that method. Now, to me, it was dumbing down. I just wanted to teach him how to sound combinations of letters, etc., as you mentioned. So, has this been going on for a long time, and how does that dumb down the children's ability to learn?
That's a good question. She's talking about the use of sight words in the teaching of reading. That's the whole word method. The look-say method is one variation on that. How long has it been going on? Since World War I, actually. But when Rudolph Flesch wrote his book, Why Johnny Can't Read, it was against the method of sight words and to teach phonics and sound out the words. The whole word method, which is what the school system has preferred over the past 100 years, the child is not taught to sound out the letters. In many cases, not allowed to sound out the letters. Rather, you focus on the whole word. These are the old, everybody here learns to read by the old Dick and Jane readers. Remember the old Dick and Jane readers? See spot one. Come home, Spot. Come home. This is the kind of drivel that children get when they use the whole word method, because they can only memorize a small number of small words every year. They can't read great children's books. They can't read The Secret Garden. They can't read Angry Neighbors. They can't read Peter Pan. It's too sophisticated. So, think about it. You gotta memorize the shape of the word. And if you don't recognize the shape of the word, they teach you to guess. And if you make a good guess, even if you're wrong, one example was the sentence read, I like to eat carrots. And the kid read it, I like to eat cake. And they said, very good, Johnny, you follow the cues here. This is the dominant method, has been for 100 years. This is why we have a nation of thinking illiterates. The method doesn't work. There's tens of thousands of words in the language. How are you going to memorize the shape of all that? It's impossible. Einstein couldn't do it. Shakespeare couldn't do it. Newton couldn't do it. The greatest geniuses can't do it. The method doesn't work. That's why we have so many illiterates and semi.
All right, we've got a question over this way.
Thank you. I admire you very much. Is there anything in the book about the sex change operations that they're
anything about the sex change operation? Not specifically, but you're right. This is the leftist propaganda that the schools spew out today. The idea that this is what's evil, right? First of all, there's dozens of genders. Second of all, we can choose any gender we want. Third of all, we encourage kids to have sex change operations when they're very young. This is very evil. Look, there's nothing more obvious to a child, or anybody, to what gender you are. There's only two possibilities, and it's very obvious. I was telling Paul and Gaston this before. My sister has a very raw sense of humor. She had this drawing up after for a long time. There's a little boy and a little girl and then be twins, like 4 or 5 years old. They get into the bathtub to take a bath, and the little girl's looking at her brother's crotch, and he says to her, "No, you can't touch it. You broke yours off already." It's nothing more obvious. There's nothing more obvious than what gender we are. So you ask the question, what's the purpose of this vicious nonsense? Well, it's to place the kids' perception, it's to get the kids to doubt their own perception of reality. If you follow what the teachers say, there are any number of genders, you can change your gender at will with our power, with the power of the state, the power of the Holy Spirit, the power of the state behind you, you can change your gender. What this does is, it gets the kids to question their own grasp of reality, follow what the teachers say, ultimately obey the state. That's the purpose. That's the purpose of this vicious nonsense.
This will be the last question then.
Thank you, Andrew. My name is Robin Gibbon. I'm a retired school nurse, just retired in Montana. I 31 years in a school, so I exactly understand everything you're saying. I wanted to just mention to everyone here, every parent, every grandparent, listen to this is the day that your children are spending in school. About 6.5 hours, 8:30 to 3, correct? The first 15 minutes of the day, taking lunch orders, putting your coats and ripping away books. 15-minute morning break, 30 minutes for lunch, 30 minutes for recess, 45 minutes for phys ed. That's 2.25 hours out of 6.5 hours. 2.25 hours non-productive. So if you do homeschooling 50 hours a day, you probably teach your children more than what the children learn in school.
No, you're absolutely right. It doesn't take that much. I've seen good homeschooling parents get up in the morning, have breakfast, and then they just crank. They work hard from like 9 in the morning to noon, or 9 in the morning to 1 a.m., and then we're done. No homework. This is Marie Montessori, my breaking. No homework except in literature. You know, when they start reading Hamlet, you know, on November 4th, I have to have Hamlet read. Other than that, there's no homework. And the kids are motivated. They can play the rest of the day, they can do what they want. They crank for 3 or 4 hours every morning, and you could teach a lot, you know, in that amount of time when you're working hard. The kids are motivated. They know they get the rest of the day off. And there's no homework other than literature. There are parents who do a really good job with this. So I want to point this out. You know how much better homeschooling is than going to school. So the last point, I see what we're out of time, is when they say the proof is in the pudding. But any metric you want to measure, whether it's the ACT or the SAT or you know, the NAEP test, any metric you want to measure, homeschool kids do much better academically than government schools.
Thank you. Take a little bit here first before we do it. There are a couple of things I wanted to just mention here. And see if I can find this. I just saw from this young lady. Okay, you may have noticed this young lady in the back of the camera. She's not filming now, so don't worry. She did film my opening remarks because she's here from France. Danny Chauvin. And she's very interested in what's going on in America and what's going on in Washington. And she's interested in answering, if anybody's interested in talking to her after me, you don't have to, she's not filming anybody in particular, but she's more than willing or interested to hear what you think about what's going on in Washington and what the Republicans are doing to us. So when I got that call asking if she could come today, I did say, typically we're a little leery of the press, but she was welcome to film me, but she's not filming the rest of the room, so don't worry about that. And you don't have to talk to her, but you're willing to talk to her. We're able to talk to her afterwards if you're interested in doing so. And with that being said, a couple of slides here. Okay. We have to pay a lot of money for the room and the expenses. And I said, I think we should do a little video. I was telling Melissa this afternoon. We should do a video in this room at the beginning of the day at 3 o'clock when we get here to set it up. And several hours that it takes to put this all together and the difference that transforms this room. But we spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, and we need your help to continue to support our efforts. So please be generous to put donation buckets on the tables. And if you don't have cash, you can use the LVTP chips for those donations. Go ahead and all right, merchandise table. And also, if you have further questions for our speaker, he's selling his books back there, so go back and buy his book, and also ask him some questions if you have further questions. All right, so we're going to take about a 10-minute break. We're going to come back with a few very important things to do, and we will, although we're behind, we will wrap up by now.
Remember, renew your membership this evening. Don't forget to renew your membership this evening. 50-50 raffle tickets, 50-50 raffle tickets, Second Amendment raffle, and of course, cake and cannolis. 1 for $3, or 3 for 9, their special thing on the cakes and canoes. If you want to purchase those raffle tickets, cash raffle tickets, go to where Annette and Kitty are at the front. They have those for sale. If you buy 5 from us this evening, we'll give you a free seat cushion.
You want these right up here?
Yeah, that works. Thanks.
Okay.
We gotta get, Susan says we have to give an in-kind contribution form on this.
In-kind donation to the people.
In-kind donation. Yes.
I'm
if I see you in students in the room, I'm not going to let them leave. Okay, everyone can take your seats now and get back to it. And we have the sound reception, but we're going to fix that soon. We have someone sitting in here tonight that's going to generous donation to fix the sound system, right? Suzanne is back in the bar here. Oh, I'm talking to him now. So as we get started here, I also want to welcome a young man who came to the meeting tonight, Chris Pachowski here. Chris is a member of the Tea Party for many years. And I think I mentioned if I could have your attention please now so we can get started. Hey, who are you? Thank you. So, alright. Settle down now? Okay. Chris is a young man who we welcome as a member, but several months ago I think I mentioned his name. He's come to our board and presented a possible business plan for us to adapt. And so last month when I introduced to you all sort of what we did in our December planning and long-term strategy session, I'm sorry, the microphone, I'm sorry about that, where we are moving to listen and incorporate to some of the people that talked and gave us opinions, and we met with a very long-term meeting, and we will be implementing some continued changes to better impact our community, have a bigger voice with hopefully a business plan that will help us market us a little better. So welcome, Chris, and thanks for coming out. We look forward to your presentation and hopefully after some of your business plan and maybe February or March period. All right, so if I have your attention. Thank you. All right. So the first slide we have here. So there's a lot of wording on this, and you're going to make me read all this. Actually, this was sort of what we did. We said we'd come back to you with what our plan was for 23 and 24. So our plan for the next 2 years, thank you, is that we attract people to the LVTP based on issues like free speech, election security or integrity, guns, right to life, and to help them get involved in government and politics. That is, we will teach the big picture. If we could have maybe everyone that's talking be quiet, it's sort of impolite to the people who can't hear because you're talking. Sorry about that. That is, we will teach the big picture of how the system works, must have no clue, most have no clue. Then ask them to run for party committee, judge of elections, inspector of elections, constable, poll watcher, school board, municipal council, mayor, town supervisor, county council, state lawmakers, etc. The recruit, counsel, and train model. If we don't fill elected seats, our opposition will. They do. They fill these seats. And we sit here, oftentimes, with no Republicans running for anything. In many communities in which we could win some of these seats. And we heard a good speaker tonight talking about the cost of education. The secret to fixing the education system, at least in part, unless you want to put your kids in Catholic or private school or homeschool them, is to get people on our school boards who will fix this mess through the process. If we don't fill them, as we said, the opposition will, we end up being governed by our own political enemies. Ryan, the socialist, and of course the corrupt. The unit party that's in Washington and Harrisburg. Go ahead, next slide. So it's a lot of work again. I gotta get my glasses here. To launch this project, we need everyone to pitch in and commit to doing something, no matter how small. If you think we may be willing to just tap the link in your check-in confirmation message. So we've been sending you text messages. We said welcome tonight when you check in. So if you want to get involved, you can tap the link in that check-in message. Critical. We need 3 people as overall project managers who are willing to work at least 7 to 10 hours a week, organizing others, setting up training programs, assigning work, and generally coordinating the efforts of the multiple teams. Now, I will tell you with this, a lot of this is, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. We have done this. We had all those training sessions last year that Andrew ran through my packet, where we did that training for the judges of elections and we were successful. And we were pretty successful at getting a lot of people in these very local but very important positions. And we need to continue to do that. And that's one thing we need to do is, even though we're focused on the local elections this year, we also have to keep in mind who we need to primary in 24 for these state house seats. And we need to start looking for those candidates now. And the people that we maybe set up as we're knocking on doors and volunteering and getting people to get to know our candidates for these local offices, identify the people that listen to our message and say, guess what, we need you to run for state house next year. We need to primary some of these people. Egregiously enough, last week at the NCRC executive meeting, 2 of our state reps showed up. Thankfully, they came one of the first times ever. We've seen them there, Zach Mako and Ann Flood. Zach Mako's been in office 8 years and never once sponsored one bill. He typically votes okay. But what's he there for? We presented him an argument that they should dress it up in resolution to impeach Wolf, and he refused to sign it, saying, I never sign anything. I don't support anything. I won't sign a resolution. Ever. Why did he get elected? So then they stood there, because I think they realized we're in a bit of trouble with the base. And they told us what they expected to do in Harrisburg this year. They were optimistic in all of those speeches until they started getting questioned. And the first question asked was something that I brought up at the beginning of the meeting, which was the constitutional amendment for voter ID. Will you push this? Will you get involved on it? You have the majority. The governor can't veto that second bill. Once you pass it with your majority, do it now. Will you do that? They hemmed and hawed and said, it depends on who the speaker is. We don't know. We need to get rid of these people. They're not on our side. They call themselves Republicans. We get upset with each other and ourselves because we start fighting amongst each other because we're like, but that's a Republican and the lesser of two evils. This guy's better, he's the bad, he's the lesser of two evils. The lesser of two evil is evil. And we have to stop this. So that's why this is so important. We can do this. So we've had sort of low attendance in the last 2 months, and I understand why. It's winter time and the flu's going around. And also, more importantly, most importantly, we were very depressed about the election results. It's time to get over that. It's time to talk to your friends, your fellow supporting members, friends, neighbors, family. Get them engaged, and we need to see a lot more people engaged and showing up at the meetings. We're going to have a great meeting next month. We're going to start talking about the election with our steering committee, but we need your help. So that's why we did this. We did that special meeting and came up with this plan after a lot of talking and discussing how we can do this. So if you're interested in one of the critical positions, email focus24@lvtp.org. Next slide. Okay, I want to thank Tom Campion. He's the one that passed all that system that we do with the polling and everything. He came to our strategy meeting. He came from New Jersey. He spent as many hours with us. He presented everything that we did to vote and discuss, and we came up with the plan that the board voted on. And he put this all together, and I want to thank Tom for his continued amazing support for our organization. So there I had my phone set up on a table, and I had my Facebook Live on, and Tom Campion has this Tom Carroll's talking to me. So, and that's probably true, but Tom Campion and the rest of the board have done a great job. We are enthused. We know you're depressed and upset and anxious about what's happening in the world. Prices are going up. They're trying to brainwash their children with everything from transgender crap to, politically correct everything and wokeism and everything else that they're doing, destroying our economy. We can't let that get to us. We need to fight, get back in the fight. The alternative is we just lose faster. We may not win this battle. I think we're going to win. I think we have to stay on God's side. We have to stay prayerful, and we have to keep fighting. I think we're going to win, but we're not going to win it with that side that we're too depressed and we can't take it anymore. One, stop watching the news and turn off Fox News. That's a step in the right direction. All right, next slide.
Eat cannolis.
All right, so what we said last time was, we were doing several years ago, we sort of falling away from it, was we would give you guys the opportunity to ask some questions or give us some comments to help us, positive kind of motivation for a thought process of what we can do better or what you might want us to do. So if anybody wants to ask a question or make a comment, Andrew will pass the microphone around now. You don't have to, but go ahead, Frank.
Oh, no, I don't have camera.
Oh, Frank, all right, anybody want to discuss anything about what we're doing or anything, or have any questions? Because we're... Now this is
That notice spelled scam. Notice spelled scam.
Oh, yes, thank you. You've been telling me with many messages. Melissa, thank God you're there. I'm sorry, I'm old, I'm seeing out. 30 seconds after she tells me something, I'm like, what did you just say? We got a message from a concerned member a couple days ago, got an email, which I spread quickly to the board, that they received a phone call from somebody saying they represented the Tea Party and asking for a cash donation of $100, I think it was. Just so you all know, they are scamming people everywhere at every level. You get an email saying your Netflix is going to be canceled even though you don't have Netflix. Click on it here and you think, wait a minute, I don't want to lose my time, I never click on anything. Never click on anything. And the Tea Party is not sending text messages asking for money. We're not sending emails asking for money, and we're certainly not, unless we're doing a particular mail-in raffle, which you will know was an official mailing. And we certainly are not calling anybody asking for donations. So if you get such a call, please be advised it's a scam. Don't answer it, or politely or not so politely hang up. So, someone has a question?
Hi,
Hi, my name's Robin. At the last meeting in December, we were all really yes on the election and all the issues and problems. So I got up and I asked the question to which you tabled until January. I was just wondering if I could ask it again. So the question was, tell us something about, give us a report about all the problems that existed and happened all around our area with the machines on election night. In many of the towns, they ran out of paper, the machines weren't working, people had to wait for hours. I mean, that's just several of the problems. So my question, bottom line, is there a way we can find out what happened and how it's being addressed so it doesn't happen again?
A lot of that comes from people filing Freedom of Information requests. And if people think something happened, if people have a word of something happening, send a message to me because we have... Hey, remember my friend back there? We always rely on you to get everyone quiet. So, we got a lot to do here still. Bobby Gunther's been here too late tonight. He's got to get home to bed. Let's get going here. Have everyone get to your seats. Please stop the conversation now, please. Many of you know the man standing next to me, Bill Bachman, owner of Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays. He's been working with the election integrity stuff, presenting a lot of stuff about the Republican Party and the elections and the cases that we've been pursuing. And he's going to speak for a few minutes to introduce Bobby. So go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. I got a really important announcement tonight. Please, this is really important. Biden just announced that more than half the women in his administration are women. You can't make this up. So back in December, I spoke, going to be back next year, which is this year, and I don't have time tonight, but I've got a strategic plan of what we can do to take back our state and our country. So I'll be back next month if Tom allows me to come back, and if you want me to come back, I'll be happy to be here. How many remember last month what DTDS stood for?
Dog?
Dumber than dog shit. So what do we have in Harrisburg, right? You can't make some of this stuff up, right? Some of those dumber than dog shit Republicans have not disappointed us again. On your table is a PowerPoint slide I put out, and this is what Tom was talking about, these 16 Republicans that voted for a Democrat speaker while we still had the majority. There's no other words I can explain. At our last meeting, I spoke about some of the Republicans running fundraisers and going on TV supporting Shapiro. Remember Jeff Bartos, who was running for U.S. Senate, holds a fundraiser. Val DeJurio, former chairman of the Republican Party, holds a fundraiser and goes on TV supporting Shapiro. And just when you think we got rid of a swamper, Pat Brown, he's back. He's being nominated for Secretary of Revenue. Okay. This is the senator that gave Governor Wolf, helped give him $3.4 billion increase in the budget. That's $3.4 billion, and education got a $1.6 billion increase. You just can't make this shit up, right? These legislators don't understand Harrisburg. It's our money. It's not their money, right? It's our tax money, and we're not going to let them get away with this anymore. You'll notice two names in red, the top two.
those are two targets that I'm personally going to go after and figure out how to get them out of there. They've got to go. And that Brian Cutler dude, he's the one that ran leadership and told the Republican Party people, don't talk about election integrity. So that jackass lost the House. You can't make it up. And Seth Grove yelled and screamed at me at a meeting that mail-in ballots were constitutional. So this is what we're up against, people. I'm sorry about that. I want to thank all the veterans in the room here. Thank you. Bill Brown, thank you. We're meeting here because of them, and let's never forget that. I'd like to keep this short, so I'm going to invite Gunther up here to introduce our next presenter. Gunther.
Thank you. I'm surprised nobody's wearing any masks. Shocked. Yeah, and appreciate everybody that listens to the show, and I did my best to hold Doyle Heffley to the fire for he's one of the ones, Carbon County, and he stabbed us in the back. It's unbelievable. It feels right. It's crazy. I looked at those names on that PowerPoint. They all reached out to this Rossi to try to come up with a compromise so we could have some sort of agreement. They all reached out to that Democrat and voted for him. How many of those guys have been to a Tea Party meeting here? None. They don't reach out to you, but they're worried about getting along with Democrats, but not their constituents, not conservatives. And by the way, thank you. This is a really amazing turnout. Thank you guys for being engaged. Really, truly amazing. Yes. Thank you. I want to bring up Hogan Gidley, and you know, I want to tell you, I often say there's the Republican rats, the Democrats rats, the bureaucrats, and the PAC rats. And the PAC rats are all these bogus groups that are out fundraising, like he just mentioned, and people like Sidney Powell, and whatever we're going to do, find the Kraken, and they're all raising money off you. We got to get smarter, folks, because these people are all ripping us off. The Republican rats, the bureaucrats, the Democrats, and the PAC rats. Hogan happens to have an organization, though, that's legitimate, and you can support it. Also, Hogan is a Newsmax contributor, and we all know how we got screwed with Newsmax now, thanks to DirecTV. Folks, they're trying to tell you that the election wasn't stolen. But look at everything we found out that's true on Twitter. All the stuff about Hunter Biden that was true. All the stuff about Trump that was false. We were all paranoid. We were all conspiracy theorists. Well, guess what? We were right about that. We're not wrong about the election being stolen. Get on the phone to whatever and whoever you got to do and demand they put Newsmax back on DirecTV. Yeah. I had the honor of interviewing Hogan yesterday, and I've interviewed him many times when he was press secretary for Donald Trump. He's the former White House principal press secretary, deputy press secretary, and former press secretary for the Trump 2020 campaign. And he's now with the legitimate PAC, America First Policy Institute, and he's the vice chair for the Center for Election Integrity. Yeah. And he's here tonight to talk about just that. Give him a greatly highly welcome, Hogan Gidley.
Yesterday morning. I do not appreciate the way you tried to keep getting me in trouble on the show. That's fine. I tried to avoid as best I could. You know, it's interesting at this time, you can probably attest to this. Every time I'm on a radio show, and I do a lot of them across the country, none as brilliantly done as yours, but I've never seen people so angry in my life. The Tea Party started because people were angry. But now, I see a level that cuts across party lines in a lot of ways, racial lines, gender lines. People are furious, but now they're really willing to get involved at the local level, where the work has to be done. A couple people up here running for school board. I think someone in the back was talking about school board. This is how you make
real change. Remember, the more local the government, the easier it is to effectuate change. So thank you for all you do on the radio and the message you bring every single day. So thank you to everybody in the room as well. The Lehigh Valley Tea Party, because you are willing to be engaged. You are here, and that matters. Showing up is half of it, of course. Thank you to our chairman. Really appreciate this. What an amazing event this is. And I've had a chance to talk to people in the room. Everyone's excited about our future. And while we've taken the teeth the last little bit, I know we've got some big things coming, which is important. And I also want to thank Bill Bockenberg. Bill, you and I have got to be friends. And he's one of the guys that I talked to early on in my fight for election integrity, and I've talked to a lot of folks. And it takes me about 5 minutes to realize half of them are crazy. Gotta be honest, Bill, starting out, I thought you were one of the crazy ones. And then it turned out everything he said was true. So I was like, all right, maybe I'm going to stick with this guy. And got a chance to go out and do some shooting with him today, which was a blessing beyond measure for me. And of course, I don't appreciate the fact that he was up there hitting all the clays and not missing. And then I realized he was probably putting rock salt in my gun because for whatever reason it was malfunctioning. This place kept going. And half the women, did Joe Biden say that? Yep. Half the women in his administration are women. Today, until they transition to men tomorrow. Could be it. I don't know. Trying to help them out. Ken, thank you also for what you do on the radio and filling in for the great Rush Limbaugh. Interact with Rush Limbaugh. We became friends later in his life. For someone like me who started as a ditto head 20 years ago, it was unbelievable. And I remember when Trump was giving Rush his award, remember, for the Medal of Freedom? And Rush and I were texting, and Rush was on his way to the White House. And he said, "Can you meet me out front?" I said, "Absolutely, Rush, whatever you want." I met him out front. He gets out of the car and we start talking. He gets his wife and says, "This is what I'm talking about. This is Hogan." And in fact, he even knew my name to the world of me, much less said nice things about me on the radio. And when he would, my phone would start going off. And then I would, within minutes, I had a paper brought to my desk with Trump's signature on it and some kind words. They would print out what Rush would say about me, take it to the president. The president would say, "Oh, there's nobody bigger. Good job, Hogan." Hilarious. But he was the best, and so, in fact, you got to fill in for him and meet him as well. It's really special, so thank you for being here tonight as well. Thank you also to the veterans in the room, to the active duty military. I appreciate it. And to the Gold Star families, the strangers, I have to tell you, y'all in the White House, or when we would meet y'all out on the campaign trail, it was always one of the most impactful things about being in the White House, was working with him and the Gold Star families. And it meant the world to him because he would talk about it all the way home. So thank you for your sacrifice and what you do. Bill, great speech. Listen, Navy SEALs, I can't even fathom what you guys go through, what you do to be where you are to protect us every single day and our freedoms. And you said something I think is so important, and that is, you can take away all of Donald Trump's policies with executive orders from Joe Biden. Congress can pass new laws, whatever. What Donald Trump gave this party is something that can never be taken away, and that is, he said it's okay to fight back and say no. We're going to do it the way we want to do it. We have to keep in the fight. Thank you for bringing us out. But you did say a couple times about him putting his foot in his mouth, and I have to tell you, as his press secretary, he never said anything wrong. All the phone calls were working. No tweet was bad. They were all perfect. I'm always happy to come to events like this because it means so much that we actually start with a prayer, with a pledge, with the national anthem. You think the Democrats are starting their events with those types of things? Nope. They have a couple of Ukraine flags up here or something like that. But I know everyone in the room cares about freedom. I know you all care about America, but I like to know my audience a little bit, so I'm going to ask the question. Show of hands. Eagles?
Better stop there.
Okay. Overall, Eagles flying.
Cowboys.
Winning Super Bowl, everybody, we're still on the support. Very good. Love going around ribbon meeting everybody, and someone told me I looked thinner than I do on TV, which I appreciate. Thank you very much. Somebody else said, "Oh, you have a great accent." I said, "I detect you from the South." I said, "Yes." He said, "What part?" I said, "South Jersey." South Carolina. But I do work at the Center for Election Integrity of the American First Policy Institute, but I have to say, that's a 501c3. What that means is it's nonprofit and nonpartisan. So if there's any IRS agents in the room tonight, I hear my own dime and my own time to have this conversation because we're going to get pretty partisan tonight in my speech. Just so we know. It has nothing to do with my outfit. I've been in political communications for about 25 years. Started with a man named Mike Huckabee, who was governor of the state of Arkansas. I met Sarah Sanders when she was 19 years old. You want to have a conversation? Let's turn the mics off, the cameras off, and go outside and talk about Sarah at age 19. But now she's the governor of the great state of Arkansas. Just got back from her inauguration. And I don't know how many of you saw it, but she just got tapped to give the response to the State of the Union. I did serve as Deputy Assistant to the President, Principal Deputy Press Secretary in the White House for quite some time, Press Secretary for the campaign, and it was by far and away the most rewarding job I ever had. Long hours, late nights. I'm still in a fog because of it. I was talking to a reporter who, if I said their name, you'd know them from a newspaper you would hate, and I hate them too. But this particular person said, "Yeah, it's pretty common. The White House is still in a fog." And I said, "Well, I'm still in one," but it was all worth it because under the President's leadership, we put policies in place that improve the lives of all Americans, regardless of race, religion, color, or creed. To be a small part of that for me is a blessing beyond measure. I'm here to tell you, we can do it again. We can, and I think we will. Now, you hear all the time that elections have consequences. You know that. They sure do. The outcome of elections put people in power that actually shape policy. And I didn't realize how much they shape policy until I got into the White House. And those policies matter. You know, good policies yield good results. Bad policies for our families. The Donald Trump administration put policies in place that made our lives better. You know, we often point to, boy, back in Reagan, back in the 80s, that was the time when we were hitting on all cylinders, folks. You ain't got to go back to Reagan. We're talking 2 years. 2 years ago. Record-setting success and record-setting time. And I want to go through a few of them, some have been mentioned. But I started looking at what we had accomplished, and I was blown away. Donald Trump rebuilt our military. He made trade deals that actually benefited American workers for the first time in decades. Peace deals that no one thought possible. He brought back our hostages at a record pace and didn't have to give away things to get them. He made other countries pay their fair share in all of these agreements we have. Stood up to China. He cut taxes. He cut regulations. He put policies in place where there were more jobs and there were people to fill them. Highest number of employment for African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, women. Record numbers. We built a wall at the southern border, made our country safer. We had the lowest number of drugs coming into this country, lowest number of human trafficking, child smuggling. One thing that has been a common theme tonight is talking about God, and one of the things Donald Trump did is he protected religious liberty for all. I remember at the beginning of COVID, we were in the Situation Room, and if you don't know what that is, it's a really specific room that we do a lot of different things in. But I've seen the bombing of several people Let's take out a lot of folks from that room. And right at the beginning of COVID, we were sitting around, and the president hadn't come down yet. The vice president was there, and he was at the head table, and he looked around the room, and I'm seeing all these generals, all these health experts. We found out later weren't health experts. No, they were in the room. And the vice president said, I think at a time like this, it's so important for this country to understand there's a higher power. And so I think we need to open in prayer. He looked around the room and he said, Hogan, open us in prayer. Now I had to say a prayer to myself before I actually said the prayer, because I was so nervous with all the people in the room. But for that administration, it was important to understand in a time of crisis, we need to rely on our God. People up for nomination that actually confirmed pro-life justices to the Supreme Court. He was the first president in history to attend the March for Life. This enraged reporters, because I've known these reporters for 20 plus years. I've been doing this since, like I said, Huckabee. I worked for Santorum when he ran for president, for heaven's sakes. Worked for Elizabeth Dole when she was senator. I've been around for a while. And they would come in and say, he's not a Christian leader. How can you work for a man like Donald Trump? And I said, look, first of all, no surprise, but you're missing the point. He is a Christian leader. But Christians understand certain things about the Bible. We believe it's inspired. We believe it's inerrant. We believe it's infallible. But it's not that we demand our leaders believe everything we believe. It's that they fight to protect our right to believe it. Meaningless, expensive, and in some cases very dangerous partnerships like the Iran nuclear deal, Paris Climate Accords, which is a joke, NAFTA, of course. He made us energy independent. The United States all became a net exporter of energy for the first time in decades under Donald Trump. Inflation was low, wages rose for the first time in 30 years, he passed criminal justice reform. And for decades in this country, we had politicians run on it, presidents not doing anything about it. Donald Trump stood strong for Israel and moved the embassy to its rightful place in Jerusalem. Ironically, there was a time when we were looking at a building and they came and said, "Oh, Mr. President, it's going to be $4.5 million." No, that's no good. No good. I'll get a guy. I got a guy. Don't worry about it. Next thing you know, we got an embassy for $200,000 down the street. Fix it up. Regardless, because of all the things I mentioned, you'd think the media would at least give them a hat tip every once in a while. Thank you. Maybe some good coverage. That never happened, of course. And look, in the face of that onslaught, Donald Trump was able to accomplish all those things. And by every measurable piece of data and metric, all the coverage on Donald Trump, 93% was negative. 93%. While the media hated him. Look, I was in a lot of meetings with President Trump and foreign leaders, and they respected him. We were more loved and feared and respected than ever before. And I was in bilateral meetings overseas in this country with President Xi of China, Bolsonaro of Brazil, Prime Minister Abe of Japan, God rest his soul, so many others. And there was a time, I don't know if you guys know what a bilateral meeting is, but basically you've seen them on TV. It'll be the president on one side and the president of another country or a leader on the other side, a prime minister. And on either side, there are, kind of set up like this, there are chairs, 5 to 10 chairs, depending, for staff. And I'm in one of those chairs, because I'm on the staff. We're overseas, I believe we're in France at the time. And he's got Prime Minister Bolsonaro of Brazil sitting there, and the press is in the back. And they're screaming out questions, and they just wave and shake hands with the cameras, and that's kind of it. We usher the press out of there, and when the press leaves, that's when the deal's done. And I remember this particular meeting because Bolsonaro is there, and Donald Trump looks at him and says, "Okay, what do you want from us? What do you need? Tell me." Just kind of messing with him. And of course, I'm up here, and I've got all these leaders, people names you would know, like John Bolton, right? Mike Pompeo, others, a few good ones in there, chief of staff, and And they're terrified because they do not understand what Donald Trump is doing here. Bolsonaro says, oh, Mr. President, we want to work with you guys on trade, and we've got so many resources in Brazil. We've got rare earth, and we have the Amazon, we have minerals and all these things. And Donald Trump just cuts him off stone cold and goes, I don't like the Amazon. Now, I'm not entirely sure what all Brazil has to offer, but I know the Amazon is a big part of it. You should have seen the faces of the people in our delegation. They were terrified. Knowing Trump like I know Trump, I knew he was setting him up. And Bolsonaro kind of stutters and stammers and he gets nervous. He says, I don't understand. I don't understand, but Mr. President, the Amazon has all this. He goes, it's too many snakes. How do I And Bolsonaro started laughing. He said, I don't like snakes either. And then we worked out some trade deals with the Prime Minister, or the President of Brazil. It's so indicative of what the press never would report on, what the press didn't appreciate, what the left refused to acknowledge. It was that Donald Trump was good at this. He understood how to put the American people first. He knew Bolsonaro was going to put the people of Brazil first, but it was his job to protect us first. We don't have that anymore, and I don't remember the last time we had it before. Media refuse to acknowledge any of these successes that I've talked about, and I always get this question, and Bill and I talked about today. It just seems like the left wakes up every morning and goes, here's the talking point, say it every day, all the time, and cram it down people's throats. Why can't we do that, okay? Well, I'll answer it a couple ways. First of all, we do get talking points every day from Republicans, but by our nature, we're more individualistic.
That's right.
Right? Democrats are all together in one spot, never deviate. They're all the same. They believe in the collective. They are like that, absolutely. But politics is a team sport. So we have to learn better how to operate together to get things accomplished. Look, we're all here tonight. We all love the Constitution. I love the Constitution in large part because it allows you, gives you the right to be left the hell alone.
That's right.
However, the people who want to be left alone will always lose to the people who want to win the game. And the left wants to win the game. You're engaged tonight. I'm going to encourage you to remain engaged.
That's right.
I want to be left alone too. We're going to have to win some fights and be engaged to do it. Now, selling our side of the story is never going to be all that easy. And we talked about some of the messaging, Bill, you did, which was great. And I'm a messenger because I'm a PR guy and I did it for 25 years. But the left controls every major lever of power and influence. It's colleges and universities, Hollywood, big tech, and of course the mainstream media. But we have to stand firm on the facts, as you mentioned. We have to do a better job messaging it, and we have to be willing to get into the fight. And Democrats in the media didn't understand any of what Donald Trump was doing. He didn't understand the America First movement. Because the Democrats in the media, they don't understand the American people. They don't understand you. Again, with Donald Trump, with policies, results. That brings us to today. Joe Biden has failed at just about everything he's ever done. We all know that. He was a joke when he was a senator. He was crooked when he was a senator. I still think that's going to come out, by the way. You're right. Remember, on the issue of crime, someone mentioned they don't want to go to Philadelphia. I got to drive back there tonight. Y'all pray for me. It's not good. Maybe I'll take some of Bill's guns with me and I'll be fine. That's right. Well, yeah. We'll see. But remember, they were the ones who were pushing for defunding the police for more than a year. And I remember I was on Fox News one time, and I kept saying that Joe Biden was defunding the police during the campaign. He's going to defund the police. And the anchor cut me off and said, no, he's never said defund. And I said, wait a minute. What he said he would do is redirect the funds If you don't think redirect is the same thing as defund, then let me redirect your paycheck into my bank account. It was Joe Biden, Democrats who looked the other way in the summer of love, when our country burned to the ground. Over $2 billion in damage, uninsured damage. Cops targeted. People just dragged out the streets, beaten within an inch of their lives. And it was Kamala Harris, our esteemed brilliant vice president, who at the time pushed a fund to give money to, not to help those who lost their businesses, but to help those who actually burned down the businesses and were in jail because of it.
Hogan, who's pulling Joe Biden's strings?
I'll get to that. I wish I was, but that's another story. So, we know our southern border is a disaster. 5 million people have poured into this country illegally and unlawfully. I love Joe Biden too, saying we can't fix it, we don't know how to fix it. If you reverse all of the policies that gave us the success and do the exact opposite, what do you think is going to happen?
Fix it.
What frustrates me the most about that is every single DUI, every single rape, every single murder, every single assault, every single battery, every single theft committed by an illegal alien is 100% preventable. They shouldn't be here in the first place. They picked up people from over 150 different countries, people with ties to Al-Qaeda. They caught some terrorists on the terrorist watch list just the other day. By the way, it's no coincidence that at the same time Joe Biden is opening our borders to millions of people, he's also trying to put for no photo identification to vote, but that's another story altogether. This means our communities are much less safe. It puts a strain, obviously, on our first responders. It puts a strain on our education system. It puts a strain on our health care. They don't care. Because what they want, I would often argue on radio or on television that they're either stupid, which they are, or this is by design. I would argue it's by design because they're one of the votes. They want people to come to this country, get on the government dole, and get them to vote their insane policies. It's backfiring because the numbers aren't what they thought it was, but that's what they're trying to do. Somewhere in the mix, of course, Joe Biden pushed Build Back Better. Nothing's built, nothing's back, nothing's better.
I got to tear down first.
It was originally over, $5 trillion? I don't know what it ended up being, in the 7 range. We consistently argued it was big government socialism bill. What's interesting about this is, and I don't want to deviate too far into a messaging thing, when we started polling it, this is one of the fights you guys are in, and that is socialism polled well amongst the younger generation.
Of course.
So we couldn't call it the socialism bill. We had to call it big government socialism bill. That took it into a negative in the 80s. But just calling it socialism didn't work. I remember Rush Limbaugh one time said, it was one of my favorite things, that he said, if I were putting a bill up, whatever it was, I'd name it the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Bill. It wouldn't have anything to do with Martin Luther King Jr., but you can't vote against a bill named Martin Luther King Jr. Which is why they named it the Inflation Reduction Act. When even John Kerry says it doesn't reduce inflation, what are you talking about? It's obvious. Highest inflation in 40 years. First of all, remember they said it's not real. Then they said it's transitory. Then he said it's actually good for you. Then he said, no, it's a supply chain problem. They said, you know, it's actually because of COVID. Joe Biden consistently says, he consistently acts as though these things are happening to him. Like he's just a bystander. No, these things are happening because of him and his policies. You're paying more for gas and for groceries. Remember when they tried to blame Putin for gas prices? By the way, if it actually was Vladimir Putin's fault, wouldn't that be the best reason to make energy ourselves so we're not beholden to a dictator? The Joe Biden administration has really put policies in place that are endangering our businesses, our churches, our families, our religious liberty, and of course, American way of life. He calls us ultra MAGA. He says we're a threat. Damn right we're a threat. We're a threat to open borders. We're a threat to drugs pouring into this country. We're a threat to spike in crime. I love him using that passive voice, as I mentioned. And the press just goes right along. You know, Karine Jean-Pierre is the press secretary. But that entire room are deputy press secretaries for her. They just repeat it. They don't ask serious questions. But for Newsmax and a couple of Fox, that's it. It's the only pushback she gets. But I love, if it's Donald Trump in office, everything that's happening is Donald Trump's fault. If it's Joe Biden or any other Democrat, they use language like, well, the president had a bad week. Or, he was dealt some setbacks. He keeps finding himself at odds with fill in the blank. No, they're all his fault. The president was right about the policy, as we now know. But he was also right about so many other things. The Wuhan lab leak theory, the Russian bounty gate, where they said Russia was offering bounties to kill American soldiers. Not true. The Lafayette Park Square lie, where they said Trump ordered people tear gassed. I was there for that. Not true. Masks don't work, Donald Trump said. They said, no, he's lying. I know they don't work. Lockdowns prevent spread. Not true. The Hunter Biden laptop, boy, that's the gift that keeps on giving. You know, if Republicans do their job in the House and they pull on that thread, that's not a Hunter Biden investigation, folks. That's a Joe Biden investigation. Maybe not another one of the These are more than 10% from all of us, I can promise you that. And of course, Russian collusion, which is an absolute joke. The difference between really a conspiracy theory and reality is about 6 months. And it turns out they weren't conspiracy theories at all, were they? They were just spoiler alerts. That was the truth. I'm sure that all of you are opinionated about where the country is. That's why you're here on a Thursday. Yes, Thursday. You care about the present and you care about the future. I'm telling you, you can get those policies you want if you get the right people put in office. But you can't get the right people put in office if our elections continue to be fraud. There's so many illegalities, irregularities, anomalies, and fraud. There's one thing the left hates, it's transparency. Whether that's critical race theory, which they're not teaching, until you catch them teaching it, they say, well, we're not teaching it, but it's important to learn it. Training your kindergartners, not doing it until they are, all the videos coming out of that. And of course, they don't want you to get close to seeing behind the curtain with election integrity. Remember, the foundation of the American system of self-governance is liberty, and the core expression of that liberty is people being able to vote for their representation in honest elections. The media always calls me and says there's no widespread fraud. Okay, I'll bite. How much fraud's okay? What do you think's okay? In this country, I'd argue none. But distrust of this process is nothing new. Anyone remember Florida in the year 2000? Now, we've traded hanging chads and nipple ballots with Madison, Maryland, and drop boxes, but it's still the same argument. And so, we have been losing faith, trust, and confidence in this election process for decades in this country. Remember, after 2016, it was Chuck Schumer who tweeted at least 50 times about the need to strengthen election security, saying there's nothing partisan about that. It was that brilliant philosopher I mentioned before, Kamala Harris, who said, it's never been more urgent to secure our elections. I saw someone hack a machine right in front of me. Speaker Pelosi said the same thing in 2004. Blaine Ken Blackwell was the Secretary of State of Ohio for stuffing ballot boxes. Now, despite what you may hear, Election integrity measures are wildly popular. Again, across racial gender lines, across party lines. 88% of Americans believe we should have clean and accurate voter rolls.
Yes.
I have to tell you, about 24 million voter registrations in the United States are no longer valid or significantly inactive. More than 2 million dead people on the rolls right now. Now, I met someone out on a campaign trail that came up to me, and they were so angry that their parents had voted for Joe Biden, they said they'd never go to their gravesite ever again. They were working to clean their tombstone down. It's funny, but it's not. I look at it and I used to joke, if you don't want the cemetery vote in Arkansas, you're not winning. We know the stats. Public Interest Legal Foundation found 25,000 dead people in the rolls in Michigan. 17,000 have been dead for 10 years. 4,000 have been dead for 20. 85% of Americans in this country believe that we should show a photo ID before voting. States will do it differently. Listen to what I said. 85%. I didn't say voter ID. I said photo ID. Okay? You can't get onto a plane with an electric bill. You can't. You can try, but you don't have it. 84% of Americans support ballots being returned to election officials by election day. It's not election week. It's not election month. We also took a poll and found 82% of Americans believe our machines should be made in America. We found there are components in certain machines that come from China. Now, our military, rightly so, in the F-35 found a Chinese magnet and shut down the whole thing and had to retool it. But we're letting our voting machines have Chinese components. One other quick thing, too. I was working in our organization to try and do some work to figure out kind of what's going on at the local level. We looked at the top 100 most populated counties in the country in 14 states. And we took a look at the number of voters who voted and compared that to the number of ballots cast. They didn't match anywhere. Does it matter? 19,000 in Miami-Dade County was off. 36,000 in one county in Georgia. Let me ask you something. If you go to a bank, you write a deposit slip for $100, and you and the teller count out $100 and you hand it to them, and you get the deposit slip, the receipt back, and it says 50. But it says 150. You wouldn't let that happen anywhere else. It should be a one-for-one correlation. One vote, one person counted only one time. So we took a look too. I was real hot on this topic, so I asked one of our pollsters, Scott Rasmussen, who maybe you've already polled before, I said, how many people think only Americans should vote in American elections? I thought this is going to be 98%. Folks, 63%. Now, when I asked him why, he said that would track because 35% of Americans are fine with open borders. So, my deal is you're going to send mass mail-outs, why not send them to France or China or Iran? We don't care about citizens voting. What's it matter? It's insane. We got to fix it. But clearly, massive majorities of people believe these simple integrity measures are going to help us out. And we can't allow the vocal 20 to 30% to set bad policy. You got to make your voices heard in this. Every eligible voter should have the opportunity to cast one ballot, one time, only counted once. And the federal government is talking about taking over the elections. No. This is the same federal government that completely botched an Afghanistan withdrawal after 20 years. That sees $60 billion a year in Medicare fraud and just found $100 billion in COVID fraud. You think they can run an election here? Right? I mean, we got to make sure that so many things are done in the election process. And so I just want to end and let you guys know, again, what it means to me to be here tonight and watch the program and see so many people involved and so many people that care about what's going on. And, you know, we mentioned Trump bringing manufacturing back, talked about having those machines made in America. Folks, I'd much rather go to Bethlehem rather than Beijing to see if our voting process is a problem, you know? But for me, I'll get out of my, I'll open up the questions in just 3 minutes probably. I want to say though, I think God speaks to us in many different ways. No question, he speaks to me a lot of times. Jerks a lot in my head, quite a bit actually. But in 1918 we had Spanish flu, global pandemic. In 1929 a Great Depression. 1968 massive civil unrest, spikes in crime. 1974 we impeached the president. That's a big time span to have all of those things happen. Folks, a global pandemic, a Great Depression, massive civil unrest, and impeaching the president all happened in 2020. 1 year. If that isn't a wake-up call, I don't know what is. Now, I'm here to tell you, I was born in a little town in North Carolina, named Gastonia, North Carolina, outside of Charlotte. I grew up in a small town called El Dorado, Arkansas. It's right there. This was the state of Arkansas. It's right here, on the Louisiana border. Went to school at College of Mississippi, Ole Miss. By the way, A.J. Brown played at Ole Miss, so you Eagles fans in there, we're on board now. But in the White House, I got to see so many things and experience so many things. I was raised by a single woman. I'm a nobody from nowhere. When I was in the administration, there's a little thing you go on the computer. You go in and look at different things you've done just to check boxes and see. I've been in the White House for 1 year. I've been on Air Force One over 150 times. I've been in Marine One with the president. We got to take off the south lawn of the White House, fly in a helicopter to Joint Base Andrews, fly to the Army-Navy game, go watch them play, and I got to come back with him. One of the coolest things I got to do.
Yeah, you took over my parking that day.
I did take over your parking. You probably shut down your flight too.
Park a mile away. Thank you.
And for me, those things are so significant. I mean, Ivanka Trump called me on the phone and said, "Hey, Hogan, can you go with me out on the campaign trail?" Sure. The First Lady of the United States called me and she said, "Well, I can't impress you. You know how she talks, whatever." She called me and wanted me to go on the campaign trail with the First Lady. I did that. I don't say that to tell you I'm great. I tell you that because I am a nobody from nowhere. Nowhere else in the world could someone with my background do what I've got to do, but in America. I don't have the last name Kennedy or Bush or Clinton. Oh, yeah. But I say that because a lady at the launch of our Center for Election Integrity came to me and she said, "I'm so happy you guys are doing this at the local level. This is going to be so important, so impactful." I said, "This, just how are you going to do it?" And I said, "I'm not going to do it. You're going to do it." She looked at me and I said, "I can't come into Georgia and tell you how to run an election. You have to get involved." Now, thankfully, people in this room understand what it takes to be involved. That's why you're here on a Thursday. Thank you, Bill. But there is a reason that, for example, the people of Cuba walk through their streets holding that American flag, chanting liberty and freedom. Because they know what you know, what the left doesn't know. That this country is still a beacon of hope and of freedom and of strength and of love and of fight and of democracy all over the world. And I'm so confident that because you're here tonight, because you're engaged, it's going to stay that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
those agents. He joked about it, but as I have said many months in a row here when I take the stage up, and I failed to do it tonight, forgot to welcome those agents of the federal government who are here monitoring us. They are here. They think we are the enemy. And as much as Hogan talked about all the bad press that President Trump got and how much they hated him, they hate us more. But fear not, we are on the right side of history and we will prevail. And it is the strength of this organization that brought someone like Hogan here tonight to speak to us. And Bill and Charlie, and I thank all the speakers tonight so much for coming and sharing their words of wisdom. And we are engaged and we're going to win this battle. And we have a couple more slides and then we're going to wrap it up for the night. So Andrew had a bus down to Washington, D.C. Do you want to say a word or two about that real quick?
So we didn't know how this was going to go as Roe v. Wade was overturned. We were fortunate enough, this is my bus out of the Easton area, but we have people from all over the Lehigh Valley joining us. We have 52 people attend. This is our Leaving St. James in our Mass. Nancy Arrow came and she brought us some crumb cakes or some muffins and some water. She's obviously pro-life and she was here earlier tonight running for a common pleas judge. And there's the crowd there, folks. Very well attended, some of the greatest speeches I've ever heard.
So thanks, Andrew. Next month, first Thursday of the month, I believe, is also March 2nd. So we'll see you in March. We're going to do the 50-50 drawing now.
Two more slides.
Before we do the 50-50 drawing, I just want to say, again, many years ago, I met Andrew in a political event, and we've known each other for well over a decade, or about 15 years now. Turns out after knowing him for about 10 years, our mothers went to high school together, we didn't even know that. Well, there's so many people that have worked so hard for this organization. We have a couple former board members here tonight. And again, I want to thank Melissa for all the years of working with us and all the headaches that she had to put up with to be on the board, and Andrew for his hard work, as if it wasn't for Andrew stepping up after Tom Campione had his stroke. And I want to also just again thank Tom Campione for all his hard work. And the two people that are doing I'll make that announcement in 1 second, Andrew. The two people that are also going to do this drawing in 1 second, Mo and Tom Jury, you guys have been phenomenal. Thank you for all your support. They've served on our board for many years. And we're going to draw them in 1 minute. I have one other announcement here. The Republican women have an event Thursday, February 9th at the Prime Steakhouse. Linda Stupas, I think, is still here, and Judy Strock is still here, so if you're interested, go talk to them. And the petition events that we talked about, February 14th in the afternoon and time. And if you have any questions about those, see Andrew afterwards. And what else do we have here? Oh, the Lincoln Day breakfast and lunch for both county parties is the 18th of February, so if you're interested in that, going to either one of them, the Lincoln Day breakfast in Lehigh County and the Lincoln Day brunch or lunch is at in Northampton County. And Judy Strauch here is the event coordinator for that. So if you're interested in going to the Northampton County event, go see Judy. And what else do we have there? Next month's meeting, March 2nd. 50-50, let's go.
I want to thank everyone for their generous donations for the 50-50. Tonight's winner will be $155 to the winner, and our drawing will be done by our Navy SEAL Bill Brown. And the winning number is 0449672. That's 0449672. Anyone? 0449672. Going once. You got it? All right. Harry's got it.
Thank you very much, everyone. Turns out that we sold enough gun tickets to do that raffle. Melissa has a microphone back there. We'll do that real quick right now.
All right, we're going to draw for the gun for drawing tonight, and then we'll start a new raffle next month.
If
you're exiting, could you please keep it quiet until we finish the meeting in just about 2 minutes? Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, the winner is Helen. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your last name. Papathonus?
All right,
Helen Papathonus.
if she's not here, she'll be notified. Thank you. Okay, if she's here, congratulations. All right, so my final remarks, just very short. God bless everybody. Thank you for coming. Stay in the fight. Protect your own families. Pray to God. And have a good month.
Teams for people that are helping people send it in the right form so they'll be answered. Freedom of information requests that sometimes then result in getting answers. And if they object to it, there's an appeal process. And so that's one method of trying to figure that out. Also, put some pressure on your local committee person, if you know who your committee person is in your Republican Party, and or send a message to your area leader to say, please go to your leadership of your county party and say, that's the, because we're a 501c4, so we're not a political party. The political parties are the ones that have the resources that can start looking at that, and they're the ones that access get information. I know we have, Linda was here, I don't know if she had to leave early tonight, she's on the state committee. I know one of the functions of the state committee was they were supposed to be helping with some of that stuff, and I don't know if one had to leave early or not, but maybe, I mean, I can give you some updates on what's going on with some of the cases that we're involved with. We are still fighting. There are still cases in court, and everyone says, well, they're not going to do anything. Well, they're afraid to death of the cases we have. We found illegality with the cases in Fulton County with the machines connecting to Canada with Python script. We know how they're doing it. It's taken us about 2 years to figure this out, and they're scared to death because of what we've done. So they're playing some pretty nasty tactics. So we have a lot of lawsuits over the place. We sued Josh Shapiro for defamation on behalf of Tony Shoup. And in that lawsuit, we used as evidence to the defense of the claims that she's a kook and she's crazy and there was no election fraud, all of the whistleblower evidence that we have at Delaware County. So there's a lot of stuff still going on. There's lawsuits and
question here, his question. Okay, here. Why don't you answer me with the microphone?
The question I have is, we have elections in the House of Representatives now for Speaker of the House. And I think they've had, what, 7 votes, and they have not decided on the Speaker of the House.
Speak in the mic.
Okay.
Speak in the mic.
And they have not had a positive vote on, I don't know.
So on, yes, closer.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'll speak a little louder and slower. My question is about the election that's going on right now in the House of Representatives to elect the Speaker of the House. And for 3 days now, they've had votes, and they cannot decide, they cannot get 218 votes, which is one more than the 435, half of the 435. They need 218 to vote the Speaker. Well, the Democrats are sticking together. They're up around, what, 212, I believe. But there are 20 holdouts who are not voting for the Speaker of the House. Now, my question is, maybe Tom has some insight, and I think these 20 people are real patriots, and they understand the corruption of what Washington is all about. And they're holding out because they want to get someone in there who's solid, someone who's a real conservative, and someone that they can really trust to get things done. And I'm wondering, I've heard good things about this man from Florida.
Brian Donalds.
What's his name?
Brian Donalds.
Brian Donalds. Now, he's only been in Congress for about 2 years now, I understand. But he was in the State House in Florida. And I've heard the man speak. And he's very articulate, and he's very intelligent. He has 3 children. He is a family man. He has good conservative values. And I'm wondering if maybe they might pivot to him and make him Speaker of the House. And he's a black man. So he would be good for the Republican Party. He really, really would. Maybe that's the plan. I think there's a plan here. I don't know what the plan is. Tom, can you speak on this?
Yeah, I can speak on this a little bit, and then I think we'll take that as a final sort of comment for tonight and wrap up the rest of the meeting. But it's a great comment, but I'll segue back after my answer to saying we always, rightfully so, are paying attention to what they're doing. And sometimes we lose sight of what they're doing here. And so that's why, again, at the end of the day, I share your passion, and I 100% agree with you. I believe Kevin McCarthy, I don't think he's the devil incarnate, but I think with watching him and how he did this and how he ran these primaries, one of the demands that this group had, they said they would compromise and maybe they would come around and vote for him, was they simply said, stop spending money in the primaries. That was one of their demands, because he weighed in. Now, you all know my feelings on Kevin Delker, but Kevin Delker should have not had to fight, as much as I was personally opposed to him for all sorts of reasons. You've all heard those stories. But he should not have had to fight the money that Kevin McCarthy was throwing into this district on behalf of their chosen person. I personally support Lisa. I loved her, and I think she was the best candidate. Kevin McCarthy should not have been dumping money into that contested primary. Just like Mitch McConnell should not have been dumping money into Alaska. It's disgusting. I believe that Kevin McCarthy, who, by the way, came out and was blasting Donald Trump for January 6th. And you know we had many buses down there that day. We had hundreds of our members and friends down there that day. And I know I'm not supposed to talk about that, but we did nothing illegal. We were defending our right to ask simple legal questions, and Kevin McCarthy said that we were criminals. They have how many people still in jail in America with no due process in gulags? They can't talk to their lawyers. They can't talk to their families. They haven't been set bail. They haven't had trial dates. It's going on 2 years. This is not America. And Kevin McCarthy is part of the problem. Are we going to be able to fix that? Is he going to end up Speaker? Probably. I wish we could. I agree with you. I think they should continue to hold out. And at some point, McCarthy's so arrogant. And some of these Republicans, remember? They sold us out. They were happy to take the loss so that Trump, because the Orange Man's bad. Orange Man bad, and that's the Republican never-Trumper establishment. And those people will take the loss, and they'll let Hakeem Jeffries be Speaker. And that's the concern I have, is in this mix, some of the traitor Republicans will finally start voting for Jeffries, and all of a sudden we'll find him as Speaker. Well, I don't know. Ridiculous. We said what we do, right? I don't know. It's sad. I wish I could say more. It's very emotional. Reasonable people can disagree. It's a scary time, and we just have to pray that the right result comes out. And I don't think I can give a better answer. So we'll move on.
Quick. We all feel very passionately
Be very careful.
about this. And I think it's time for us to get up and write to, call, email our congresspeople. We need to do it about this right away. We need to do it about voter ID right away. And I would love to get a group of people here who are willing to help me audit the registered voters, Republican and Democrat throughout our area. Because I don't like seeing 160 people in Wisconsin with the same address voting. 160 people in one address. And oh, by the way, it's not an apartment building.
She's right. We have 250,000 plus voters in Pennsylvania on our registration rolls that do not live in Pennsylvania anymore. They're either dead or moved to another state or moved from one county to the next, registered in more than one county. 250,000. And then you talk about all the other fraud. Right. Where do we go? So much. All right. So I think, Emily, you have something to say there. Then we're going to give you the announcements for the upcoming. We're not going to do the drawing yet. Okay. So with that, let's go to the next slide here. Next month's meeting will be here February 2nd. Go ahead, Andrew. All right. Go ahead and play that video. We're going to play you a very short video of the Navy SEALs. This is William Martin is a Navy SEAL who's going to be here next month. He's going to talk to us. He's been very supportive of, all know, love Charlie Strange and what his son did and how he died for our country. And Charlie and Mary are going to be here, and they're going to introduce William Martin. And can you get sound of that or no? This is a little short video about a strip and support they did up in New York to help the Gold Star families.
Tom Carroll's in that video. Just have to look carefully.
Charlie describes being on a cove when this is going on, and they swim through the river and over to Ellis Island and Liberty Island, and it's very compelling what they did to raise money in support of the Gold Star families.
Congress this year.
All right, so we're ready to draw the 50-50 raffle.
Winner gets $113.
Thank you.
Zero 449-179.
Say that again. Repeat the number.
449-179.
We got a winner over there. Thank you very much. Just want to say one couple last words here. One, thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you for staying in the fight. Let's get back into it next month, and we're going to win these battles. And I just want to close with a final prayer. So if I could have everyone's attention as we have a final prayer. As dawn breaks on a new year, let us give thanks for all we hold dear, our health, our family, and our friends. Let us release our grudges, our anger, and our pains. For these are nothing but binding chains. Let us live each day in the most loving ways, the God-conscious way. Let us put on the armor of God, stand up for our God-given rights without fear or anxiety knowing that God is standing right with us. God bless all of you. Have a great month of January, and we will see you in early February. Thank you. Good night.
It's tomorrow. Runs in case it's
go on about the election.
No, like, these guys, you told us